Chapter 43-31. Who are you? Young Beast Lord frowned and asked when he saw the old man's disdainful tone. However, the old man did not care about him at all. A list appeared in his hand and he said indifferently, "In the name of Divine Emperor Delay, I want to take a few people away. They are Ancestor Taiyan, Amon Yenshin, Yu, and Yuer, Xian Yuan Gu, and Sakura." The names he read out were all related to Lin Ling. After he finished reading, he looked at everyone calmly and said, "Do you have anything else to say? Who is Divine Emperor Delay?" Sakura and the others frowned when they heard that because they had never heard of such a name. "You're so ignorant." Duan, my martial god, said disdainfully, "This is the order of the Imperial Court. I know you don't know what the Imperial Court is. Let me tell you, the Imperial Court is an independent island in the void of the 9 states. That is the Imperial Court." At this time, the old man added, "That island is also one of the broken continents of the Divine Realm. Our master, Divine Emperor Delay, is the master of that island. As for my master, I think you've heard of him. He was the leader of the 9 states' 10 great martial gods, Divine Emperor Delay." Divine Emperor Delay. What? Sakura and the others were shocked and they heard that. Among the 9 states' 10 great martial gods, 2 of them were more powerful than the other martial gods. They were as mysterious as distant divine mountains, hidden in the fog. One of them was Luli Empress. She was ranked second among the 10 great martial gods and one of the 8 new gods. The other person was older and had a long history, so he could not become a new god. He was Divine Emperor Delay, who was ranked first. This person had always been mysterious. He had become famous 30,000 years ago. There was a rumor that this person could fight against the 4 great deities. He was truly worthy of being called the number 1 martial god. Even the glazed empress paled in comparison to him. Now, Divine Emperor Delay had surfaced and wanted to take Ancestor Taiyan and the others away. "Senior, our Snow City has no enmity with martial god Delay. Why did you take our people away?" Sanchiri immediately said. He couldn't afford to offend such a person. "Do we need to explain to you what the Imperial Court does? Now, you only have 2 paths to take. 1, all of you die, and then we'll take them away. 2, surrender yourself and we'll take him away. Make your choice." Hearing this, the old man coldly snorted. His voice was filled with disdain as he looked down on everyone. Then, he muttered to himself, "This Lin Ling arrogantly re-ranked the martial gods of the 9 provinces. My master just couldn't be bothered with him. Otherwise, does he think he has the right to re-rank the martial gods?" The faces of Sakura and the others became increasingly solemn. Although all the experts of the God Slayer Alliance were present in Snow City and their strength was monstrous, they were obviously as weak as lambs in the face of the number 1 martial god. "Alright, cut the crap. You don't have a person, but you do have a life. I would like to see how impressive this so-called martial god Delay is." However, Sakura didn't think much of it. He took a step forward and his realm essence surged. "You must be one of the 12 martial gods of the 9 provinces, Sakura. You really won't shed tears until you see the coffin." Seeing this, the old man sneered and looked around at everyone. "Who else is next?" The words, "who else," were extremely domineering. This is the territory of the God Slayer Alliance. If we don't do anything after taking our people away, people will laugh at us. Young Master Ya walked out. Next, Yu and Yuer, and the others did the same. These people were the top experts of the 9 provinces. If they fought in the 9 provinces, the entire 9 provinces would be shaken. However, the old man was also very domineering. He said indifferently, "Duan, my martial god, eternal martial god, I'll give you a chance to make a contribution. Go and deal with the 2 martial gods. Leave the rest to me." "Okay, Ancestor Qing." Duan, my martial god and eternal martial god, nodded. They looked at Sakura and young Master Yao. Then, without wasting any time, they attacked the two of them. Although they were also the 12 martial gods of the 9 provinces, it was obvious that Sakura and young Master Yao were weaker than Duan, my martial god and eternal martial god. After all, they were martial gods who had just risen and weren't mature enough. Therefore, in a short period of time, Sakura and young Master Yao were suppressed. However, the God-Slayer alliance wasn't just as strong as the two of them. There were still many experts, and these experts were all looking at the old man called Ancestor Qing. Useless people. The old man's lips curled up. He had a heroic aura as if he looked down on the world. He stared at the crowd and suddenly shouted, "Northern Wilderness Hill." Under his voice, an inexplicable, invisible force erupted. Rumble. The entire snow city seemed to have been slapped by a giant palm and crazily sank. The cultivators in the city all vomited blood and fell down. Their minds buzzed and they instantly lost the ability to fight. Sound of thunder. And Yuer also had blood flowing out of the corner of her mouth, but she couldn't help but exclaim in disbelief. The previous method was a sound of thunder. However, because this sound was too powerful, it had become silent. However, its power was terrifying and unprecedented. An expert who has become a god. Yu obviously sensed something. That old man should have the strength of a lower god, and his divine fetus wasn't weak. Bang! 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 The cultivators in Snow City fell down one after another. The weaker ones directly lost consciousness. So weak. You can't even block one of my moves. Ancestor Qin clasped his hands behind his back. His eyes were filled with disdain as he said to the people behind him, "Take away all the people on the list." Yes, Ancestor Qin. The people behind him walked out and took away all the people who had lost the ability to fight. You can't take them away. Seeing this, Indra and the others who were fighting with the Duan lineage martial god became anxious. However, they were firmly suppressed by the Duan lineage martial god and the others. They couldn't resist at all. The Duan lineage martial god and the others even sneered and repeatedly attacked, causing Indra and the others to vomit blood. Alright, let them go. We are the imperial court, not some spirit kingdom. Since they know they were wrong, then let them live. However, the old man also stopped the Duan lineage martial god and the others. Then, he wanted to take them away. However, at this moment, a figure crawled over. As he crawled, he vomited blood and said, "I'm Lin Ling's grandfather. You want to take us away because you want to use us to threaten Lin Ling, right? Just take them away. Let those juniors go." Grandfather. Seeing this, Yu and the others shouted. Ancestor Tai Yen actually wanted to sacrifice himself so that everyone could escape. Chapter 43-32. Yes. Extreme Flame Ancestor said with blood flowing out from the corner of his mouth. He was everyone's elder, but he couldn't do anything when he saw the younger generation fighting to protect their family. Therefore, he was unwilling to give up. This time, he wanted to protect the younger generation with his own hands. I see. Qing Zhu nodded after hearing this. Extreme Flame Ancestor's eyes flashed. Could it be that he could save the younger generation? Get lost. However, just as Ancestor Extreme Flame had this thought, Ancestor Qing kicked out. The kick shattered Ancestor Extreme Flame's chest. He coughed out blood and fell to the ground unconscious. You're just an old man. You think you're qualified to bargain with me? Take them all away. After kicking Ancestor Extreme Flame away, Ancestor Qing said disdainfully. He waved his hand and took everyone away. The people on the ground looked at the departing group with powerless eyes. They felt like their hearts were being cut by a knife. Snow Wind City was famous in the final world. However, it was still vulnerable in front of the real ancient figures. We're still too weak. Chiri, the old woman and the others touched their injured chests and looked at the distance with anger. In the distant sky, no one knew when it had started to snow. White snow fluttered in the air, dyeing the messy snow-blowing city into a silver-white color. Unknowingly, winter had arrived today. In the past, Snow Wind City would be bustling with noise to welcome the arrival of winter. However, the current Snow Wind City was less lively and more desolate. Some experts have come to Snow Wind City. I didn't expect that the powerful Snow Wind City would end up like this. I heard that Lei Gong has fallen. Otherwise, no one would dare to make a move in Lin Ling's territory. Lin Ling went to the Eight Gods' heavenly palace. I wonder what he will do when he comes back and sees this scene. What else can he do? If Lei Gong is really like the rumors, then Lin Ling's powerful backer will be gone. Without a backer, although Lin Ling is strong, there are still many people who can kill him. The news of snow-blowing city quietly spread to the entire final world. Like a bomb, the final world was in turmoil. It's snowing. At this time, several figures were flying towards the snow-blowing city. Lin Ling looked at the white snow falling from the sky, and the corners of his mouth revealed a smile. Unknowingly, he had already spent several autumns and winters in the final world. Gradually, an ancient huge city began to appear in front of them. They had arrived at snow-blowing city. Seeing this, other than Emperor God Zhang Gang, Lin Ling and the other two smiled. No matter if it was treasure god Nanwu Fengyu or the giant ghost, they had all lived in Snow Wind City for a long time and had an indescribable sense of warmth towards that place. Something's wrong with the power of lightning. All of a sudden, Lin Ling's smile vanished and he frowned. He sensed a powerful divine energy rushing out of snow-blowing city. The strength of this energy was not something that the people of the God Slayer Alliance could possess. Something is indeed wrong. Treasure god Nanwu Fengyu's expression also changed. He was inexplicably worried about Xiao Yu. The few of them sped up and flew towards snow-blowing city. After a while, they landed on the ground. They looked around and found that everyone in snow-blowing city had fallen to the ground and could not move at all. It was as if their bodies were paralyzed by the power of lightning. Yu. Lin Ling's gaze immediately swept around, but he did not find any of his family members. Not a single one. Everyone looked at Lin Ling with an excited expression. However, their bodies were powerless and they could not stand up at all. Senior. Lin Ling looked at the old woman and Chiri who were closest to him. He immediately flew over and activated his divine energy, destroying all the hidden divine energy in their bodies. Then, Lin Ling's divine energy seemed to be omnipotent. It spread to other people's bodies and cleared the lightning divine energy in their bodies. Treasure god Nanwu Fengyu was also helping. However, after he saw that Xiao Yu was fine, he finally relaxed. Lin Ling, it's the Duan my martial god. He brought martial god Delay's people here and took everyone away. After Chiri recovered, he immediately looked at Lin Ling and said excitedly. His eyes were moist. Because Lin Ling trusted him, he allowed his family to live in snow-blowing city. However, Chiri had failed Lin Ling's trust and let Lin Ling's family members be taken away. He was seriously injured. Grandpa, Yu and the others have been taken away. Hearing this, Lin Ling's eyes narrowed and a murderous aura spread out from his body. One should know that he had dominated the final world for many years and no one had dared to touch his family members. This had touched Lin Ling's reverse scale. Moreover, ancestor Tai Yen is injured. The old woman looked at Lin Ling awkwardly and said with a guilty expression. Grandpa is injured. A strong murderous aura spread out from Lin Ling's body. The tyrannical song sword behind him was now jumping. A billowing sea of blood spread out like clouds and occupied the entire sky of snow-blowing city. Everyone sensed the terrifying murderous aura and their faces turned pale with fright. Lin Ling. The giant ghost was shocked. It was the first time he had seen Lin Ling erupt with such murderous aura. Kunlun. On Lin Ling's shoulder, little Kunlun had also awakened. Its vines were constantly caressing Lin Ling. Although Lin Ling had massacred on the island of Ling Kingdom, Lin Ling was passive at that time. Now, Lin Ling was actively killing as if he wanted to kill everyone in the world. However, little Kunlun had been with Lin Ling for many years. It knew what Lin Ling's reverse scale was, so it was not surprised by Lin Ling's anger. Under the obstruction of the giant ghost and little Kunlun, Lin Ling gradually withdrew his murderous aura, causing the sea of blood to slowly return to the scabbard. Of course, although Lin Ling had suppressed his murderous aura, his eyes still looked like they were about to devour someone. Who is Martial God Delay? Lin Ling's voice was hoarse as he looked at the old woman and asked. Martial God Delay, the leader of the 10 great martial gods back then. The old woman immediately said. It's him. Nanwu Fengyu's eyes flashed when he heard this. Then, he saw Lin Ling's confusion and explained, a junior from 30,000 years ago. He was very strong and fought against the 4 great martial gods back then. However, he was defeated in the end and disappeared without a trace. I didn't expect him to resurface today. To be recognized by treasure god Nanwu Fengyu, this showed how powerful martial god Delay was. The leader of the 10 great martial gods back then. Lin Ling murmured. Luli Empress was ranked second among the 10 martial gods back then. This meant that martial god Delay was stronger than Luli Empress. Moreover, after so many years, martial god Delay was definitely a martial god now. Let's go find him. Lin Ling said without any hesitation. Okay, I know where he is. I'll take you there. Nanwu Fengyu immediately said. Chapter 43-33. Alright. Lin Ling also told Emperor God Zhonggang how to open the road to seeing gods. Then, he followed treasure god Nanwu Fengyu into the distance. Lin Ling, come back immediately after you're done with the things over there. God Emperor Zhonggang reminded Lin Ling as he watched him leave. He had guessed that the 4 great gods were already in a state of chaos. That was why they needed Lin Ling. Lin Ling wasn't much weaker than him. He also knew many people in Lei Gong's palace. If he were to deal with those things, it would be much easier than Emperor God Zhonggang. Lord Lin Ling, be careful. The members of the God Slayer Alliance also shouted at Lin Ling. Their hearts were filled with excitement. As expected of their lord. Their great leader could solve a problem that no one else could. Moreover, he didn't seem to be afraid of martial god Delay at all. Lin Ling and treasure god Nanwu Fengyu were very fast. They rushed out of the void in the blink of an eye. They were rushing towards the other side of the Kai Yuan River. One should know that the Kai Yuan River was like a Milky Way that separated the 2 sides of the void. On the other side of the river, there was not only the dragon tribe. There was also an endless void. It was just that very few people could go to the other side. Of course, this difficulty couldn't stop Lin Ling and treasure god Delay. Looks like Lin Ling is really angry. Sigh, martial god Delay could have offended anyone, but he had to offend Lin Ling. Lin Ling didn't speak along the way. Therefore, treasure god Nanwu Fengyu thought to himself. This was because even he rarely saw Lin Ling's cold attitude. Plus, he knew that Lin Ling wasn't the same as before. He was extremely powerful. Therefore, martial god Delay was courting death if he dared to offend Lin Ling. After flying for a short while, a large number of figures appeared in front of them. They seemed to be heading towards Lin Ling. Duan Vain martial god. Lin Ling was very powerful. He instantly saw 2 of them. Lin Ling. Duan my martial god and the others were also surprised to see Lin Ling. They didn't expect to meet Lin Ling on the way back after handing the person over to Divine Emperor Delay. Immediately, they whispered something into the old man's ear. The old man narrowed his eyes and looked at Lin Ling indifferently. He was very surprised. The two sides quickly met face to face. No one spoke, but a wave of baleful aura spread out from the two camps. "You're Lin Ling. Didn't you go to the Eight Gods' heavenly palace? Why are you back so quickly?" Green Ancestor was the first to speak. He also glanced at Nanwu Fenyu Treasure God, but he didn't recognize him, so he didn't put him in his eyes. "Lin Ling, right? Kneel down and kowtow to me, and I guarantee that I won't touch you. After all, I've heard that you're someone that the four great gods want." Then, he looked at Lin Ling and said. His words were like a reward. "Lin Ling, did you hear that? Your luck is here. Kneel down and kowtow to me." The Duanmai martial god also shouted when he saw this. He was extremely excited because he had finally found an opportunity to attack Lin Ling. "Let me tell you, martial god Delay wants to become one of the four great gods. If you kowtow and admit your mistake, maybe martial god Delay will let you be a trial taker again." Eternal martial god said with a sinister smile. This was also the reason why Divine Emperor Delay wanted to capture Lin Ling's family. She wanted to subdue Lei Gong and become one of the four great gods. Hearing this, Lin Ling froze for a moment, then laughed maniacally. He looked at Nanwu Fenyu Treasure God and laughed even louder. Because a mere martial god Delay wanted to become one of the four great gods. What a joke. Although martial god Delay's strength was not bad, she was not strong enough to dominate the void of the 9 continents. Lin Ling was not much weaker than her. "What are you laughing at?" Qing Zhu frowned after seeing Nanwu Fenyu Treasure God laughing. Nanwu Fenyu Treasure God immediately looked at Qing Zhu and said, "I'm laughing at martial god Delay. Who does she think she is? She dares to call herself one of the four great gods and wants the two of us to be her subordinates. Is she stupid? What did you say?" Qing Zhu's eyes narrowed. That old man dared to scold Qing Zhu. "Are you deaf? I'm saying, who does martial god Delay think he is? Do you understand? Do you need me to shout louder?" Nanwu Fenyu Treasure God's eyes became even more disdainful. "You're courting death." Duanmai martial god and eternal martial god cursed at the same time. They had never seen Nanwu Fenyu Treasure God and didn't know how powerful he was. Qing Zhu and the people behind him were emitting a murderous aura that shook the void. Lin Ling and Eternal Martial God could laugh at anyone but Divine Emperor Delay. "Kill them all." Qing Zhu couldn't take it anymore and roared. The experts behind him gritted their teeth and lunged at Lin Ling and Eternal Martial God. What an idiot, he doesn't know how strong Divine Emperor Delay is. Duanmai martial god and Eternal martial god sneered and waited for the scene of Lin Ling being beaten up. They knew that if martial god Delay didn't want Lin Ling to die, Qing Zhu alone would be enough to kill Lin Ling. "I'll do it." Lin Ling's suppressed killing intent finally erupted when he saw them attack. Because he'd noticed earlier that Ancestor Extreme Flame and the others weren't amongst them. So, he didn't intend to waste any more time. A surging sea of blood gushed out from behind him and flooded the entire void. A sword floated out and landed in Lin Ling's hand. Hua Yen Fourth Association. After Lin Ling's sword of murderous aura floated in his hand, the steps of slaughter appeared. Now that Lin Ling was a deity, his sword was even more powerful than when he was on the island of Ling Nation. Rumble. The sea of blood engulfed everything. It was domineering and magnificent. Swoosh. As long as one wasn't a deity, they would be split into two. Their bodies would be submerged by the blood sea, turning into a part of the blood sea. In the blink of an eye, more than 100,000 peak martial gods were killed by a single slash. Qing Zhu and the others were stunned, especially the Duanmai martial god and the Eternal martial god. Their eyes were trembling because Lin Ling's strength seemed to have more than doubled in less than 3 years after the battle in the Yellow Sea. What the hell is going on? After all, that group of experts from before were from the imperial court, and it was a formidable power that was isolated from the outside world. So, their strengths were extremely formidable. However, even such experts couldn't withstand Lin Ling's sword. After all, there were hundreds of thousands of people there. While they were still in shock, Qing Zhu, who was contemptuous at the beginning, finally showed a shocked expression and murmured, "A lower deity." What? Chapter 43-34. Only they knew how difficult it was to become a god. Although there was a basic requirement to become a god, which was to have a powerful divine fetus, there were also pros and cons. A powerful divine fetus had a lower chance of becoming a god. It would take a very long time to feel the arrival of a god's calamity. Lin Ling was originally very powerful and was almost invincible in the martial god realm. Logically speaking, it was inevitable for him to become a god. However, it would take at least 100,000 years for him to feel the arrival of a god's calamity. But now, only 3 years had passed since the Battle of the Yellow Sea, and Lin Ling had already become a god. This change was simply too great. Lin Ling stood in the void, holding the tyrannical song sword diagonally. His long hair fluttered gently, and a murderous aura quietly spread out. It was sharp and fierce. This aura was so strong that even Ancestor Qing sensed it. His eyes narrowed, making it hard to tell what he was thinking. This was because he did not expect Lin Ling to be a lower god. Ancestor Qing, this Lin Ling can't be left alive. He must be killed. Why don't we act first and report later? Anyway, Emperor Delay has never seen Lin Ling. When the time comes, we'll say that Lin Ling is dead. That's enough. At this time, the martial god looked at Ancestor Qing and said. His only hope now was Ancestor Qing. This was because even if Lin Ling had not become a god, he was confident that he was no match for Lin Ling. The reason he dared to provoke Lin Ling was all because of Ancestor Qing. That's right, Ancestor Qing is still here. Ancestor Qing is also a god who became a god 20,000 years before Lin Ling. How can Lin Ling be his match? The ancient divine emperor's eyes lit up, then he laughed and looked at Lin Ling. Lin Ling, why aren't you kneeling down and begging for mercy? Don't think that you're so great just because you've become a god. This is Ancestor Qing, who was transformed from a divine pine in the divine world. He became a god 20,000 years before you. Divine pine. When he heard this, Lin Ling looked at Qin Zhu indifferently. He naturally noticed that the reason the Duan lineage martial god and the others dared to not fear him was because of that old man. Green Ancestor was still looking at Lin Ling. He slowly said, I didn't expect you to become a god. You're really lucky. Since it wasn't easy for you to become a god, I'll spare your life if you submit to Celestial Emperor Regal Thunder. You should know that there are strong and weak gods, such as in the final world. Some Castellans are experts who have become gods. However, at some point in time, their strength may not even be comparable to a peak martial god realm expert. You are one of the 8 new gods. After becoming a god, your strength is indeed extraordinary. However, in the end, your foundation is still weaker than mine. Are you done with your bullshit? Where are my grandpa and the others? Hearing this, Lin Ling disdained to say anything more. I'm giving you face, but you don't want it. Earlier, it was only you who used your sword. Otherwise, do you think that your sword could kill all of my people in front of my eyes? Green Ancestor sneered. Terrifying divine vitality began to surge out of his body. An evergreen pine tree quietly appeared behind him as if it had not fallen for 10,000 years. The activation of divine vitality immediately made Duan my martial god and the others laugh. They laughed a little excitedly because Green Ancestor was finally going to make a move. Do I need to use my sword against you? At this moment, Lin Ling moved and actually made a move. He didn't use his sword but punched out. He seemed to be far away from Green Ancestor, but the moment he punched out, he arrived in front of Green Ancestor in an instant. Attack me? Green Ancestor's eyes narrowed. He was very surprised because he was a lower god who had cultivated for 20,000 years. Lin Ling had just become a lower god. The difference between the two was 20,000 years. If a talented martial artist had 20,000 years, he could have completely become a martial god from nothing. So Lin Ling dared to be so arrogant when he had just become a god. Green Ancestor didn't waste time. He mobilized his divine vitality and punched out. He wanted to cripple Lin Ling's arm and let Lin Ling grow up. The two people's fists quickly collided, and a dull rumbling sound rang out. The collision of the wind and waves directly blew the Duan lineage martial god and the others back. Their eyes were also filled with seriousness. As for Green Ancestor, he immediately felt a terrifying pressure after colliding with Lin Ling's punch. Lin Ling's fist was so hard. It seemed that he had just broken through to become a lower god, but the density of his divine vitality was beyond imagination. Bang! 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 Ancestor Qing took 3 steps in the void, causing cracks to appear in the void. Then, he stopped and stared at Lin Ling with a serious look in his eyes. When he looked at Lin Ling again, he didn't move and didn't take a step back. He was a lower god who had 7 dantians. This meant that Green Ancestor was fighting against 7 lower gods at the same time. How could Green Ancestor withstand that? However, Lin Ling didn't follow up with another attack. Instead, he looked coldly at Green Ancestor. Green Ancestor didn't move. His 8 trigrams robe fluttered and he felt a little embarrassed. In the distance, Duan my martial god and the other martial god's eyes widened. This was because in the first collision between Lin Ling and Green Ancestor was the one who was sent flying. This was simply unbelievable. How dare a useless person like you touch my people? At this time, Lin Ling finally opened his mouth. His voice was cold, but it was also filled with a strong sense of disdain. Now, compared to Green Ancestor, he was obviously more like a god. A useless person like you? Hearing Lin Ling's words, Green Ancestor's face became a little twisted. He stared at Lin Ling with a little more killing intent. Fine, it's time to show my true strength. Swoosh! Terrifying divine origin suddenly spread out like seawater and changed the entire void. In the vast void, endless pine trees appeared and swayed in the wind, forming a spectacular scene like a sea of trees. In the sea of trees, a palm suddenly slapped towards Lin Ling. It was mixed with the power of 3,000 divine origin. This palm also quickly arrived in front of Lin Ling. However, Lin Ling's expression didn't change. He also slapped out with his palm. After the 2 palms collided, divine origin exploded. However, this time, the 2 of them were evenly matched. Neither of them took a step back. Haha, this time, I only have the power of divine origin. I didn't use my divine embryo. Otherwise, you definitely wouldn't be able to block it. Green Ancestor maintained his posture and looked coldly at Lin Ling as he said. However, Lin Ling shook his head and didn't say anything. This time, he activated his divine power. As soon as Qing Zhu finished speaking, Lin Ling launched a ferocious palm attack. Such a ferocious scene caused Qing Zhu's face to freeze. Then, he felt as if a torrential river was rushing towards him. His body was like a sea of trees, and he immediately floated back. As soon as he stabilized his body, he gritted his teeth because this was the second time he had lost face. Treasure tree. He shouted in a low voice and completely activated the power of divine embryo. The sea of trees behind him swept towards Lin Ling with a demonic force, as if to seal Lin Ling's divine origin. Chapter 43-35 Although Green Ancestor's divine fetus was not as powerful, it had the characteristics of a treasure tree. This was because his divine fetus was transformed from a pine tree not far from the treasure tree from ancient times. A sixth-grade divine fetus. Lin Ling stared at the sea of trees in the distance. He could feel that his divine core strength and power of God were being depleted. However, the rate of depletion was not very fast. "Let's see how much power you can take away from me," Lin Ling shouted. His physical body, divine core strength and power of God were immediately enhanced by the first stage talent fusion. He took a step forward and appeared in front of Qing Zhu with a mysterious melody and killing intent. His fists immediately smashed out with earth-shattering force. Although his power was constantly being swept away, after the first part of the innate talent fusion, his power had increased greatly. Therefore, it was impossible to completely sweep away his power in a short period of time. He could not do it. Rumble. Countless palms struck out, causing the entire void to distort. The martial god and martial god Duanmai, who were far away, felt as if a divine wind was pulling at them and trying to tear them apart. His power has increased. Green Ancestor's pupils constricted and his face was filled with disbelief. He thought that Lin Ling had just become a lower deity and his realm was unstable. However, after the collision, he realized that Lin Ling's realm was not like that of a lower deity who had just become a lower deity. He was more like a lower deity who had cultivated for 100,000 years. Of course, if Emperor God Zhang Gang was here, he would laugh disdainfully. As a deity from the era of the gods, he could not even take advantage of Lin Ling in a head-on confrontation. How could Green Ancestor, a rising star, be qualified to confront Lin Ling in a head-on confrontation? Puff! Countless palms came and destroyed the sea of trees. Green Ancestor spat out blood and retreated. Blood kept flowing out from the corner of his mouth. North-facing Green Mountain. At this critical moment, Green Ancestor ignored his injuries and unleashed his full power. After the sea of trees disappeared, an ancient brown pine tree rose from the ground and grew rapidly. It was verdant and exuded an ancient aura. However, just as the tree started to grow, a sword made out of a sea of blood arrived. Looking at the horizon in the sky, one could see the surging waves of an ocean as if 10,000 horses were galloping. However, the murderous intent engulfed the divine pine tree and cut it into two halves. My divine embryo! Green Ancestor spat out mouthfuls of blood. He no longer had the arrogance he had before. Instead, he looked dispirited. His divine embryo had actually been severed by Lin Ling's sword. This result made him feel like he was dreaming. Lin Ling, surrender immediately. Otherwise, I will kill him. Right after Green Ancestor's defeat, an angry roar came, causing Lin Ling to turn around. He saw the Duan lineage martial god and the eternal martial god on the left and right respectively. They had Nanwu Fenyu in the middle with a ferocious expression. So it turned out that they saw Green Ancestor retreating and immediately knew that something was wrong. Thus, they immediately stared at Nanwu Fenyu in order to make Lin Ling fear him. Even though Nanwu Fenyu came with Lin Ling, they have never seen him before. Plus, there was no famous character in the 9 continents, so they assumed that Nanwu Fenyu was weak. Kill him. Lin Ling was a bit surprised and his sneer deepened. Even though he was confident that he was no weaker than Emperor Zhang Gang, he still felt that he didn't have the power to fight against Grandpa Treasure God. But now, the Duan lineage martial god and the others wanted to threaten Nanwu Fenyu? Don't they know that this will only lead to a faster death? Lin Ling, abolish your godhood and surrender. Otherwise, we will kill that old man. Green Ancestor looked at the Duan lineage martial god and the others and finally felt relieved. With the old man as a hostage, Lin Ling should be afraid of breaking the vases. It could be seen that he had been beaten by Lin Ling until he was scared. If you want to kill me, then kill me. However, at this moment, Lin Ling shook his head and withdrew from the first talent fusion. He put away the tyrannical song sword. If you want to kill me, then kill me. The Duan lineage martial god and the others were stunned. Are you crazy? Do you really think we don't dare to kill you? Green Ancestor shouted angrily and then said to the Duan lineage martial god and the others, break his arm or Lin Ling won't know how powerful we are. Okay. The Duan lineage martial god and the others nodded and sneered at Lin Ling. They were going to break Nanwu Fengyu's arm in front of Lin Ling. Lin Ling, keep pretending. I know you must be very nervous at this moment. You are just trying to deceive us and make us think that this old man is not important. Ha ha ha, unfortunately, do you really think we are stupid? Now, I will break his arm. Watch carefully. The ancient martial god shouted angrily. However, after he spoke, he saw that Lin Ling did not care. Instead, he revealed a look of anticipation. This made him even more confused. Could it be that Lin Ling had a grudge against the old man, so he wanted to use his own people to kill the old man? If you can touch a hair on his head, then consider it my loss. At this moment, Lin Ling finally spoke. Lin Ling, you are indeed trying to deceive us. Duan lineage martial god, make your move. The ancient martial god no longer doubted Lin Ling. He nodded at the Duan lineage martial god and then, as if he was afraid that he was not strong enough, he joined the fray. How could the old man withstand two martial gods breaking an arm at the same time? Rumble. Their palms turned into blades and slashed out fiercely. They watched Lin Ling as they slashed out, because they believed that Lin Ling would admit defeat at the last moment. However, they were obviously disappointed. Not only was Lin Ling not worried, but the anticipation on his face was even stronger. Boom! When their blades landed on Nanwu Fengyu's body, a sigh was heard. Sigh, old people are useless. I am about to be killed, but no one is worried about me. If this old man didn't have some strength left, I'm afraid he would have been killed today. A ferocious divine origin energy descended on the void, causing it to tremble continuously. Rumble. The Duan lineage martial god and the ancient martial god were sent flying. Although they were not injured, their mouths were wide open and snot was flowing out of their noses. They said in unison, God, God. They subconsciously recalled what Nanwu Fengyu had said. If this old man didn't have some strength left, however, this was still considered a little strength. What a terrifying divine origin energy. Could it be a mid-stage lower deity? Or a late-stage lower deity? Green Ancestor was so frightened that his snot was flowing out of his nose, bouncing up and down like a yo-yo. Only now did they realize that the most terrifying person was the old man. His strength was probably not weaker than Divine Emperor Delay, and it was even possible that he was stronger. What made them want to cry was that they wanted to use the old man as a hostage. Chapter 43-36. This old man is called Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu. As soon as they finished speaking, an old man appeared beside them. With a grab of his large hand, he directly grabbed the necks of the Duan lineage martial god and the Duan lineage martial god. After that, he violently slammed the two of them as if they were watermelons. Bang! A dull sound rang out. The two martial gods of Jojo were knocked into each other's heads. Their noses bled and they were dizzy. Bang! 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 Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu did not stop there. He slammed them back and forth. After dozens of slaps, the two martial gods were smashed beyond recognition. Run! On the other side, Qing Zhu saw that the situation was not right and immediately fled. However, could he escape? A sword suddenly hung in front of Qing Zhu's neck. In front of the sword, a sea of blood surged with murderous intent. It was terrifying. Qing Zhu did not dare to move anymore. He glanced to the side and saw Lin Ling standing there. He raised his sword and looked at him indifferently. Where did these two come from? Why are they so powerful? Moreover, they are so strong. However, according to the rumors in the void of Jojo, they are not as strong as imagined. Cold sweat kept falling from Qing Zu's forehead. He was filled with regret. Where are my grandfather and the others? Lin Ling asked indifferently. Yes, Imperial Court. Qing Zu did not dare to hide anything now. You said that your Emperor Di Lei wanted to become one of the four great gods. What's going on? Lin Ling asked again. A year ago, Eugene spread the news that Lei Gong was one of the hosts of the world will. In the following days, the four great gods were divided into two camps. Lei Gong became an independent camp. The other three great gods were his enemies. At that time, Eugene said that they wanted to control everything. Lei Gong. After all, the host of the world will is no small matter. Although Lei Gong was a god in the past, no one dared to ignore him. If Lei Gong is to be punished, then the four great gods will lack a position. Therefore, many hidden experts in Jojo want to replace Lei Gong. Our Emperor Di Lei is one of them. If she wants to take the position of Lei Gong, she needs to prove her allegiance. Therefore, she captured your grandfather and the others. Yes. Qing Zu's words made Lin Ling's eyes grow colder. Everything was as he had guessed. The news came from Eugene. Lin Ling immediately knew that it was Luli Empress. After all, Lin Ling had destroyed the records of the 8 gods on the 7th level. Among the challengers who went to the 7th level, only he, Lin Ling, knew about Lei Gong's identity. But before Lin Ling, the Spirit Nation knew about this news. Luli Empress was already a member of the Spirit Nation. Naturally, she would know about this news. It was even possible that this was part of the Spirit Nation's plan. Luli Empress was just one of the chess pieces. Luli Empress, you're a thief who wants to catch a thief. Lin Ling's eyes were filled with murderous intent. That day on the island of the Spirit Nation, if it weren't for the fact that there were too many experts, he, Lin Ling, would have killed Luli Empress. Lin Ling, I'm afraid that Lei Gong's side is in big trouble. Let's immediately deal with this matter and go help him. At this time, Nanwu Fenyu flew over and said to Lin Ling. Lin Ling nodded and looked at the two people in Nanwu Fenyu's hands. His murderous intent surged. By the time he went to Lei Gong's hall, he should have dealt with the two martial gods. After all, they had surrendered last time. However, when Lei Gong's power weakened, they stirred up trouble again. If he didn't kill them, they would definitely do something in the future. Lin Ling, don't kill me. Sensing Lin Ling's gaze, the two martial gods' hearts trembled. Their faces turned pale and their bodies trembled. Nanwu Fenyu also let them go. He knew that this was a grudge between them and Lin Ling. Give me a reason not to kill you. Lin Ling walked over with his sword. During the battle in the Yellow Sea, I almost wanted to kill you. I only spared your lives out of respect for the unrestrained sword martial god and the others. At that time, I said that when you see me, Lin Ling, you have to take a detour. However, today, you seem to have ignored my words. It's all in your ears. We know that we were wrong. We know that we were wrong. Give me another chance. The ancient martial god knelt down in the sky and kowtowed. He didn't expect that the rising star he saw in the divine world would directly threaten his life. One had to know that when the 9 continents investiture God, he didn't put Lin Ling in his eyes. Why do I need so many chances? Once is enough. Any more and it's just a waste of saliva. Lin Ling shook his head and raised the sword in his hand. No, don't. The ancient martial god kept kowtowing. Even the 12 martial gods of the 9 continents didn't have the slightest intention to resist. They only dared to beg for mercy. Unfortunately, when Lin Ling decided to kill someone, no one could change his mind. With a slash of the sword, the sea of blood drowned the ancient martial god, turning him into a part of the sea of blood. Lin Ling looked at the Duan lineage martial god. However, the Duan lineage martial god was different from the ancient martial god. He didn't have the slightest bit of hope. After all, the grudge between him and Lin Ling was greater. He knew that if he fell into Lin Ling's hands this time, he would no longer have a chance to live. I didn't expect that Lin Ling, who killed the number one bloodline of the Duan family back then, would be able to kill me with a sword now. Thinking back on everything, it really feels like a dream. The Duan lineage martial god sighed. Then, he closed his eyes slightly and said, "The cycle of karma. That day, I killed you, Lin Ling. Now that I've fallen into your hands, I, the Duan lineage martial god, accept it. I only hope that you will be magnanimous and not cut off my Duan family's bloodline. I see that you are also a hero. Fine, I agree to your conditions. Go to the underworld and see Duan Wuhan." Lin Ling nodded and slashed out with his sword. Then, he withdrew his sword and left. Above the void, a headless person knelt there like a statue. He stood there without falling. This was the Duan lineage martial god. Moreover, this headless person had a divine origin energy pervading his body. Unless one reached the god realm, ordinary people would find it difficult to get close to him. This was why this statue had been in the void for thousands of years and was seen by martial artists passing by. This was also Lin Ling's way of telling everyone in the 9 continents that this was the fate of the Duan lineage martial god who offended him, Lin Ling. Swoosh swoosh. At this moment, Lin Ling took Qing Zhu and shot into the distance. Gradually, huge fragments began to appear in front of them. There were many fragments floating in the void. From afar, it looked like a meteorite field. Fragments of the divine world. Treasure god Nanwu Fenyu glanced around and frowned. I didn't expect that many fragments of the shattered divine world would float into the void of the 9 continents. Your divine Emperor Di Lei lives in this area. Chapter 43-37. Nanwu Fenyu sneered and said, "Divine Emperor Di Lei, this little guy, he thinks he's a god from the era of gods just because he's living in a fragment of the divine world. Huh, what a joke, he didn't even dare to fart when he saw me back then. Senior, you've met Divine Emperor Di Lei." Qing Zhu was shocked when he heard Nanwu Fenyu's tone. He remembered that Divine Emperor Di Lei once said that there were no more than 10 people in the 9 continents that she was afraid of. Apart from the 4 great gods, there were 6 other people in the 9 continents. Could this old man be one of them? Of course I know her. I remember when she first came to the ancient forbidden forest, she acted like a god. However, I beat her until she knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. She swore that she would never come to the ancient forbidden forest again. However, she kept her promise. After so many years, she really didn't come to the ancient forbidden forest again. Divine Emperor Di Lei is good at everything, but he's too narrow-minded. Nanwu Fenyu said indifferently. Qing Zhu's legs went soft and he almost knelt down in the void. Because Nanwu Fenyu mentioned the ancient forbidden forest, he finally knew who this old man was. Moreover, Divine Emperor Di Lei also said that there were 3 places in the 9 continents that she would never go to. One of them was the ancient forbidden forest. The main reason was that there was a god hidden in the ancient forbidden forest. All of this meant that Celestial Emperor Di Lei had seen this old man before and was very wary of him. Now that the old man had come to find him, the result was predictable. He never thought that Lin Ling would know such a big shot. "We're here. Is it there?" At this moment, Lin Ling's voice drifted over as he pointed at a large fragment in front of them. Yes, it's there." Green Ancestor immediately nodded, and Lin Ling led him to the island. As soon as he reached the sky above the island, he found that there were many people on the island. There were many experts, and they were all wearing the same long robes. Their faces were full of arrogance. Walk faster, you trash. Within a mansion, a 15 or 16-year-old youth was holding a whip and riding on an old man. The whip constantly lashed out, causing lightning to bloom, causing the old man's entire body to tremble. But the old man didn't dare to resist. He lay on the ground and carried the fat youth around the garden. Huh, interesting, interesting. The fat youth was clearly very excited as he shouted while eating the drumstick. Suddenly, he turned his head to look at an expert by his side and said, "The few women I brought back this time are very pretty. Tonight, I want them to accompany me." "Young master, that's not good. Lord Delay specifically asked for it. It said that we have to hand it over." The person next to him immediately replied. However, his words were met with a whip from the youth. The man's body twitched, but he didn't dare to resist. "Humph, I'm the son of God. Whatever I say goes. Bring those beauties over immediately. I want to take off their clothes." After the young man lashed out with his whip, he immediately laughed. "Yes, young master." The expert didn't dare to resist. He immediately nodded and turned around to leave. At this moment, Lin Ling was hovering in the sky. His expression was cold and his eyes were red. He didn't say a word. He's the son of Divine Emperor Delay. Lord Delay usually spoils him the most, so he's a bit willful. But he's not a bad person. Ancestor Qing saw this scene and immediately said nervously. He clearly sensed Lin Ling's anger. This was because he also saw that the old man being ridden seemed to be Lin Ling's grandfather, Extreme Flame Ancestor. It seems like there's no room for martial god Delay's actions. Nanwu Fenyu also saw this scene and couldn't help but sigh and shake his head. He had lived in Snow City before and knew that the person Lin Ling respected the most was his grandfather. Not to mention riding the Extreme Flame Ancestor, even if he dared to curse him, Lin Ling would raise his sword and kill him. But now, this fat youth was riding Extreme Flame Ancestor. Didn't this completely incite Lin Ling's murderous intent? Moreover, the beauties the youth was talking about were probably Yu Yu's group. This touched Lin Ling's reverse scale once more. Experts had their own prestige, and Nanwu Fenyu was one of them. If someone dared to do this to his Xiaoyu, he would kill without mercy. Lin Ling was an indomitable master right now. If someone dared to do this to his loved ones, the result was obvious. Everyone on this island would die. Your name is Qin Zhu, right? At this moment, you'd better not say anything. Otherwise, Nanwu Fenyu looked at Ancestor Qing and said. Or else what? Ancestor Qing was startled and the corner of his mouth turned purple. You will die a miserable death. Treasure God Nanwu Fenyu said word by word. His words made Ancestor Qing's legs go soft, and the smell of urine spread out. He knew that dying and dying miserably were two different things. Some experts had terrifying methods to torture others, and they could make them wish they were dead. You're still a god, yet you're scared to the point of pissing your pants. How shameful. Nanwu Fenyu immediately said with disdain after sensing the stench on Ancestor Qing's body. Meanwhile, Lin Ling's gaze landed on the mansion on the island. Boom! When he landed, the fat young man was stunned. The Extreme Flame Ancestor was also stunned. Then, his pupils constricted. Ling, Having said that, his entire body trembled. Grandpa, Ling, is unfilial. Lin Ling clenched his teeth and knelt before Extreme Flame Ancestor. He knew that his grandpa should have enjoyed his old age in peace, but because of him, he had suffered so much. This made him feel like his heart was being cut by a knife. He hated himself for not being strong enough and ruthless enough. Wow, he's actually kneeling. Is he an idiot? However, the youth didn't know that the god of death had appeared in front of him. Instead, he saw Lin Ling kneeling before an old man and found it very amusing. Young master, I've brought them. At this time, a guard brought Yu and the others. They were bound by lightning chains and couldn't move at all. However, after seeing Lin Ling, they were delighted and said in unison, "Lin Ling." They clearly didn't expect Lin Ling to suddenly appear here. After all, they all thought that Lin Ling was still in the 8 gods' heavenly palace. Hee, beauties, this young master is here. However, the youth was indeed fat and stupid. He still hadn't reacted. Even the guards reacted. After all, it was suspicious that a stranger had suddenly appeared in the mansion's garden. Moreover, when they heard Yu and the others call him Lin Ling, they instantly sobered up. Could this be one of the 8 contemporary gods, Lin Ling? Chapter 43-38. However, Emperor Delay's son had always been like a crown prince on the island. He had never experienced any danger, so he still didn't put Lin Ling in his eyes. Instead, he swaggered toward Yu and the others. Lin Ling also stood up. Without any movement, he appeared in front of the boy. His big hand reached out and landed on the boy's crotch. "I'm afraid you won't be able to do it anymore." Crack. Lin Ling's palm slightly exerted force, and the sound of an egg breaking came out. The boy was stunned. He looked down at the palm between his legs, and his face turned pale. "Balls, broken. Crack." As he spoke, the fat boy also looked down between his legs. His eyes turned red. He obviously knew that after his balls were broken, he could no longer do those things. "You've earned enough over the years. Since you've earned enough, don't play anymore." Crack. Lin Ling looked at him indifferently and withdrew his right hand. His palm was full of blood. The boy was so scared that he fell to the ground with a plop. At this time, he screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Young master." Crack. The guards finally came to their senses. They looked at the crippled youth and finally understood what it meant to be in great trouble. It's over. If Lord Delay comes back and sees his son like this, I'm afraid we won't be able to escape the 72 days of hell. Crack. What should we do? Crack. They were very anxious. Obviously, they were very afraid of Emperor Delay. They had completely forgotten that Lin Ling was in front of them, and he was the murderer who crippled the boy. "Let me help you. As long as you die, everything will be easy." At this time, a cold and threatening voice quietly fell into the ears of those guards. They also completely reacted. They turned their heads and wanted to roar, but they were greeted by evil spirits. These evil spirits were very terrifying. They had a large number of tentacles and looked like a jellyfish. But the jellyfish was in the shape of a human skull. After rushing over, they finally understood the meaning of the previous sentence. Because they were going to die, why should they worry about how Emperor Delay would punish them? Crash. In the blink of an eye, all of the guards were devoured, and not even their corpses were left behind. Grandpa. After dealing with these people, Lin Ling rushed over and helped Patriarch Extreme Flame up from the ground. "Silly child, a real man doesn't cry easily. He doesn't kneel to the heavens or the earth. How could you kneel down so casually?" If the leaders of the God Slayer Alliance saw this, it would definitely affect your prestige. After Ancestor Extreme Flame stood up, he didn't mention the trouble he had encountered. Instead, he worriedly spoke to Lin Ling. Right now, Lin Ling was also a giant in the 9 prefectures. No one dared to underestimate him. Therefore, if the scene of him kneeling was spread out, it would naturally affect his prestige. Ling is willing. What's more, what I, Lin Ling, want to do, it's not up to them to tell me what to do. If they don't accept it, I'll just kill them all. Seeing that Ancestor Extreme Flame was fine, Lin Ling hurriedly said with a smile. However, the last sentence carried a threatening murderous aura, like a rolling sea of blood. This was because Lin Ling knew that he was too merciful. If he had killed the Duan lineage martial god and the eternal martial god back then, would the current martial god delay dare to provoke him? Although Lin Ling was strong, he couldn't take care of everything. For example, this time, if martial god Delay's people came to find him, Lin Ling wouldn't have been able to come back one step later. Therefore, at some point, it was important to have a fierce reputation. If it could stop Lin Ling from going to the final world, no one in Snow-Blowing City would dare to do so. Provoke. Next, Lin Ling also cut the chains on Yu Yu and the others. Of course, during this process, Lin Ling still noticed that the divine power left behind by the chains was very strong. It was of the lightning attribute and was not much weaker than Lei Zhe's true body. It seemed that martial god Delay still had some real skills. Brother Ling. Brother Ling. Lin Ling. Brother Ling. After Yu Yu and the others got free, they rushed over and hugged Lin Ling. Sorry, I'm late. Brother Ling. Lin Ling looked at his lovely wives and said with guilt. Of course, when he said that, his eyes were full of killing intent. Because if he had come one step later, that little fatty would have done something to Yu Yu and the others. And he, Lin Ling, was now one of the 8 new gods. How dare someone do this to his family? It's not Brother Ling's fault. We are useless. Brother Ling. Hearing Lin Ling's words, Yu Yu and the others immediately said. It's not that you are useless. It's because there is a great change in Lei Gong's main hall this time, so many experts have been dispatched. They are also very powerful. You can't fight against them. Lin Ling stroked the hair of his lovely wives and shook his head. Because he also knew that if it weren't for the gods, who could hurt them in the void of the 9 regions? There were definitely not many people who could reach Yu Yu and the others. After all, Lin Ling had snatched the precious palace from a boundary deity named Shuezun, who was a true disciple of Miao Shen. That kind of treasure could guarantee that no martial gods could break it, unless they were gods. Let's go and save Big Brother. Go. Then, Lin Ling brought Yu Yu and the others out of the garden. Of course, when he left, he also used his divine origin to form a cage and brought the unconscious young master away. Where is my big brother? Go. After leaving the garden, Lin Ling arrived at the mansion. Soon after, he let out a loud roar. His surging murderous aura seemed to have materialized and shook the entire mansion. Moreover, after he rushed out of the mansion, everyone in the surrounding area sensed him. What a strong killing intent. What happened? Go. It seems to be coming from the Imperial Palace. Not good, let's go there immediately. Go. It's over, it's over. If something happens to the Imperial Palace, we will be in trouble when Lord Delay returns. Go. The expressions of the experts on the entire island changed drastically, and they all rushed in the direction of the mansion. At this moment, the experts in the mansion were the first to arrive. These experts were extraordinary, and 2 of them were early-stage lower gods. It could be seen that God Emperor Delay dared to seize the position of a god. She did have some confidence. Young Master. Young Master. Those experts soon saw the young man behind Lin Ling, and they all shouted anxiously. Who are you? How dare you catch the young master? Let him go immediately. Young master. Everyone was furious, but they didn't dare to act rashly. Catch. I'll cripple him. Young master. However, compared to the anger of the crowd, Lin Ling's anger was not much weaker than theirs. This was because he had no enmity with God Emperor Delay. It was the latter who took the initiative to provoke him. What? Young master. Hearing Lin Ling's words, everyone took a closer look. Many of them were so frightened that they fell to the ground with a plop. Because they also saw that their young master was actually crippled. Chapter 43-39. This murderous aura was so strong that it made people feel cold from the outside to the inside, and from the inside to the soul. As long as one was not a deity, all of them were trembling at this moment. Those who were weak could not even stand properly. What's going on? Why is this murderous aura so strong? Damn! Who is he? Is he Lin Ling? Damn! Oh my god, why is Lin Ling here? Damn! Everyone was shocked, and they were even more surprised by Lin Ling's speed. After all, they had just caught Lin Ling not long ago. In the blink of an eye, Lin Ling had come to find them. I was wondering who was so arrogant. So it's the 8 new deities of this era. Hee, the new deities are indeed powerful, but it doesn't affect us much. Damn! At this moment, an aged voice resounded, and it was like a stabilizing needle that caused the panicked hearts of everyone to gradually calm down. This old man was one of the 3 elders of the imperial court, Man Chao. This old man's strength was at the early stage of the lower deity realm, and he was as famous as Ancestor Qing and the others. Looking at Lin Ling, although he was also very powerful, they obviously thought that Lin Ling was not a match for the new deities. As for Lin Ling's murderous aura, it was indeed terrifying. However, murderous aura was still murderous aura, and it did not represent one's cultivation realm. Thinking of this, the henchman of Divine Emperor Di Lei became bolder. He walked towards Lin Ling with a malicious expression as if he wanted to capture Lin Ling alive. Lin Ling, this is the imperial court, the home of Divine Emperor Di Lei. I don't care if you are a bullshit new deity. Here, even if you are a dragon, you will still have to coil up. Even if you are a tiger, you will still have to lie down. Damn! The old man named Man Chao smiled sinisterly and no longer talked nonsense. He attacked Lin Ling. He stretched out his hand and his divine origin surged, forming a scene of thousands of divine grasses growing wildly. These divine grasses were like endless tentacles, covering the sky and covering the earth as they moved towards Lin Ling. Second brother, don't worry about me. Take Yu, Grandpa, and leave quickly. At this time, a worried shout was heard. Sakura was held hostage by several people and was walking over from afar. Those people who were holding Sakura were afraid that Lin Ling would be too presumptuous, so they took Sakura as a hostage. But now, it seemed that they were thinking too much. Brother Ling, be careful. Yu and the others also worriedly shouted. Because from the voices of the lackeys around them, they also knew that the old man called Man Chao seemed to be a god. And their understanding of Lin Ling was only that of a martial god. Although at that time Lin Ling could fight with a god, but in the end, he was still a god. This battle didn't mean that he wasn't afraid of the deity realm. However, Lin Ling did not say a word. He raised the sword in his hand and slashed forward. If this Man Chao was a lower god in the age of gods, Lin Ling would still be cautious. However, this Man Chao obviously rose up in the age of gods. This kind of half-baked god, Lin Ling did not put him in his eyes. The sea of blood surged as the sword slashed out. The murderous aura was thicker than before. And in the sea of blood, the old man called Man Chao felt it the most. Because he felt a power that didn't seem to belong to divine origin and divine origin. Could it be the legendary steps of gods? Swoosh! Just as he was thinking, the sword arrived and cut all the divine grasses. Then, with a bang, under the eyes of countless people, an arm fell to the ground. It was Man Chao's arm. What the fuck is going on? Shit! This strange scene undoubtedly frightened everyone. Because in their opinion, although Lin Ling was a new god and there was hope that he could fight with a god, there was only hope. However, the result in front of them was that Man Chao's arm was cut off with a sword. Was there still hope? It was simply a one-sided suppression. However, in the next moment, they were once again scared silly by Lin Ling. They were not shocked by Lin Ling's strength, but by Lin Ling's methods. They saw that Lin Ling held the blood sword in his hand and was expressionless as he continuously slashed. With every slash, not only did Man Chao's body appear, but a large piece of flesh was also cut off. It looked as if he could not resist at all. Swoosh! 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 Just like this, a large amount of flesh was cut off by the sword. Man Chao, who was originally somewhat fat, was now cut into a thin man. At this moment, the old man called Man Chao also let out a painful howl. He naturally wanted to resist, but he found that there was an unknown power that was actually sealing him. He could only watch as he continuously turned into a skeleton. So scary. The surrounding people finally let out nervous voices. It was easy to kill a person, but to not let a person die, and to personally experience their own flesh and blood being continuously reduced, and to taste the pain of death by 1,000 cuts, this was not easy. But Lin Ling had done this, and he was also telling everyone that he dared to do this. This is the consequence of touching the people of the Lin family. Wah! Ugh! In the end, a large number of people in the surrounding area vomited. Even though they were considered people who killed people like flies, they were still completely frightened by this scene. Hurry up and run! Run! They did not care so much and fled in all directions. However, Lin Ling was already prepared. Powerful divine origin gushed out, and then he slashed out with his sword again. In every direction, the divine origin merged with the sea of blood, forming a terrifying sea that drowned everything. Those who tried to escape were drowned by the sea of blood before they could even get far. They tumbled up and down as they screamed for help. In the end, they turned into a torrential pool of blood. Are you going to kill them all? One of the 3 great elders of Emperor Delay, the old man called Old Jing, roared with red eyes because he also saw that the experts of the imperial court were submerged by the blood river. At first, they were rolling up and down, but in the end, all of them turned into blood, leaving only white bones floating in the sea. This method was obviously not effective. It was more cruel than this. Why didn't you say this when you caught my people? Ha! Lin Ling looked at the old man expressionlessly and said. Although we caught your people, we did not kill any of them. But you, on the other hand, want to kill everyone in the imperial court. Ha! The old man roared again, looking at Lin Ling as if he was an enemy who had killed his father. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled and said softly, if we were not still useful, do you think you would not kill our people? As soon as this sentence fell, the old man could not refute. After all, Emperor Delay wanted to capture Yu and the others. Naturally, he wanted to use Yu and the others to threaten Lin Ling, so if Yu and the others were not useful, they would have been killed long ago. Trash is full of nonsense. Lin Ling was too lazy to explain anything. He slashed out with his sword, and a sea of blood surged toward the old man. The old man's strength was comparable to Ancestor Qing's. Even Ancestor Qing could not stop Lin Ling, so how could he succeed? Chapter 43-40. Pluff pluff pluff. Beautiful flowers bloomed in the streets and alleys. Those who were hit by the divine energy would explode and die. Your Excellency, please spare us. This has nothing to do with us. Your Excellency, please spare us. Run. The people on the island didn't expect such a calamity to befall the paradise of martial god Delay. Nothing to do with you. All of you must die because you are related to martial god Delay. Lin Ling's eyes flashed mercilessly because Yu's group didn't provoke martial god Delay. However, they were implicated because of Lin Ling. As long as these people were related to martial god Delay, they would be implicated as well. This was karma. Splash. The merciless sea of blood continued to reap people's lives. This was the first time Lin Ling had massacred 100,000 martial gods since the Spirit Nation Island. It should be known that after he went to the final world, he had not killed so many people in one go even when he returned 100 years ago. However, although Lin Ling was killing, his heart was as clear as a mirror. This was because after becoming a god, he had gained a deeper understanding of the universal void Great Tao. He also knew that killing was also a part of the Great Tao of the void. It was indispensable. For example, when winter came and everything was frozen to death, this was also killing. However, no one thought that winter was merciless and cruel. Everything was relative. Dead, dead, all dead. Dead. On the other side of the island, Qing Zu's heart trembled as he watched the people dying. He didn't expect to pay such a great price for offending Lin Ling. Later on, he looked at the barbarian grass that had been cut into skeletons on the ground and finally understood what Nanwu Fengyu meant by dying a miserable death. Oh. A divine spring. Yes. Suddenly, Lin Ling's gaze shifted and he saw almost 100 divine springs in a mountain range. He immediately smashed the mountain range with his palm and then waved his right hand. His divine energy was like countless invisible hands that gathered all the divine springs hidden in the mountain range. He didn't expect martial god Delay to have so many treasures. Holy Spring. When Lin Ling went to Miao Shen's true inheritance, he spent a lot of treasures to exchange for a few. Later on, he used them all to break through. However, there were over 100 of them here. It was obviously a huge sum of money. It should be known that the Emperor Crystal was no longer of much help to a cultivator at the late martial god realm. It required too much Emperor Crystal. Powerful experts used the Holy Spring to break through to the deity realm. The Holy Spring, which was a product of the void, was absolutely helpful. It could restore one's divine origin. This was because the number was beyond imagination. Otherwise, after all these years, treasure god Nanwu Fengyu and the others would have broken through long ago precisely because of insufficient cultivation resources. So many innate divine weapons. After that, Lin Ling's gaze swept around again. In the depths of the mountain range, he discovered a treasury. With a slap of his right hand, the mountain range exploded, and countless treasures floated out. That go board is quite extraordinary. What is that broken ball of mud? And this jar? Under the control of Lin Ling's divine origin, all the treasures flew to him. Except for the innate divine weapons above the 8th grade, Lin Ling ignored them all. After all, the weapons below the 8th grade were not as powerful as Lin Ling's attack. However, the weapons above the 8th grade were quite extraordinary. Lin Ling didn't expect Celestial Emperor Delay to have so much wealth. No wonder he dared to challenge a god. Unfortunately, Lin Ling didn't know that Celestial Emperor Delay had robbed his home when he wasn't home. TSK, this martial god Delay is really a treasure collector. These treasures are extraordinary. At this time, treasure god Nanwu Fengyu flew over and clicked his tongue in amazement. My lord's treasures. As for Ancestor Qing, he had seen these treasures before. In the past, Celestial Emperor Delay would take them out to admire at a certain time. This made Ancestor Qing and the others jealous, but they could only look at them and not touch them. Now, these treasures were all in Lin Ling's hands. Lin Ling, among so many treasures, only these 3 require divine origin to activate. Treasure god Nanwu Fengyu grabbed with his right hand and a go board appeared in his hand. He examined it carefully and said in surprise, Universe Qing Tian Formation. This is a formation board. However, although my spirit formation Tao is good, I still can't understand it. Lin Ling, you do it. He tossed the chessboard over to Lin Ling, who caught it. Lin Ling's mastery of world spirit techniques was very powerful to begin with. He was even capable of setting up a grand formation capable of killing gods. Merely, a grand formation like that required a lot of materials. Lin Ling was unable to gather them all at once. Thus, the Great Universal Qingtian Formation was not a problem for Lin Ling, trap formation. After examining it carefully, Lin Ling cried out in surprise. Trap formation? Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu asked curiously. Lin Ling nodded. Divine origin and soul power poured in to activate the Go board in his hand. If one wanted to control a high-level formation, the difficulty was obviously much higher. It required powerful soul power and divine origin. After the Go board was activated by Lin Ling, it grew bigger. Then, 19 huge blue pillars appeared, towering under the sky with divine might. Those pillars were motionless. After they grew bigger and took shape, a huge blue hall appeared in front of Lin Ling and the others. This hall was also very grand and gave people a feeling of profoundness. Once this formation is activated, it can trap people. Those are the 19 pillars of Fong Nan. They are made from 9,999 rare treasures. After 7,999 years of forging, once one enters the formation, even gods will find it hard to escape. Lin Ling also explained, at present, powerful spirit formation divine formations are generally divided into 3 types. The first is offensive formation, the second is defensive formation, and the third is trap formation. All spirit formation divine formations are created from these 3 types of spirit formation divine formations. There are offensive formations and defensive formations, trap formations and offensive formations. This universe Qingtian formation is a true trap formation. It doesn't have any offensive power. Treasure God Nanwu Fengyu nodded in shock. To be able to trap gods, TSK, this is probably martial god Delay's trump card. Yes. I reckon so. But now, this spell formation belongs to us. Lin Ling smiled and put away the universal Qingtian formation. Then, he looked at the other treasure. This treasure was also the only one he couldn't see through. This was because there were 8 of them. They were 8 dark and swarthy balls of mud. Heavenly Star Lightning, this treasure is freakish. It was created by a god suppressing the heavenly star lightning of the divine realm. 1 lightning bolt is equivalent to the full power strike of a peak low god. 8 lightning bolts. TSK, unless one is fast enough to escape the lightning, even a god would be blasted to pieces. Chapter 43-41. So powerful. Wow. Lin Ling was shocked as well, and then he was overjoyed. His soul power had noticed that there was a trace of the power of the god stairway hidden within the mud ball. What about this jar? Wow. Then, Lin Ling took out the last treasure he couldn't see through. This jar was as big as a wine jar, but it was very exquisite. There were mysterious words written on the surface, and there was a golden lid on top. This jar seems to be a set with the chessboard from before. Wow! Nanwu Fengyu looked up and down, because this jar seemed to be used to store chess pieces. Upon hearing that, Lin Ling opened the jar. However, the contents of the jar were very ordinary. There were only countless white beans. These beans were also very exquisite, just like soybeans. Could it be, the legendary bean soldiers? Wow! Suddenly, Nanwu Fengyu shouted in shock, Lin Ling, try to throw a bean. Remember, use your spirit energy to activate it. Wow! Okay. Wow! Lin Ling nodded. His divine energy was clearly much more powerful than his world essence. It could imitate anything. Hence, Lin Ling pinched a bean between his fingers and took it out. However, when he poured his divine energy into the bean, he discovered that the bean seemed to have changed. It was as though he was holding a person. After he threw it, the bean exploded in the air, and then clouds floated out, and an old man walked out from the clouds. This old man is here, what is it? Wow! The old man had a long sword on his back, and he wore an emerald green robe. He looked like a master, and after he appeared, he stroked his beard and smiled at Lin Ling's group. Lin Ling and Nanwu Fengyu were a little surprised. What was this strange guy's background? My name is Yi Liangchen, and I like to attack people who think they are outstanding. Sirs, do you need my help? Wow! The old man was still stroking his beard with a smile. Cut this place. Wow! Lin Ling was just testing it out, so he spoke casually. Hearing this, the old man looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. The sword in his hand floated out and was held by him. He said indifferently, Liang Chen doesn't like to cause trouble, but he is also not someone who is afraid of trouble. After he finished speaking, he slashed out with his sword. Boom! The entire island was sliced into two halves by the sword. Smoke billowed as it was completely destroyed. Now, everyone in the imperial court was dead, and even the island was destroyed. Ancestor Qing's face was pale, and he bit his lips, not daring to say a word. This old man is leaving. After completing Lin Ling's instructions, the old man let out a carefree laugh and his body exploded, turning into a cloud of mist and disappearing. Is this what it means to turn beans into soldiers? Lin Ling was tongue-tied, because he was surprised by the strength of the old man. And there was a whole can of beans like this. If all of them were spilled, wouldn't that mean that he had the help of a large number of deities? This is also a great treasure. Of course, the old man who spilled it out seems to be a bit too arrogant. Treasure god Nanwu Fengyu was also surprised, and then he murmured, these treasures, I'm afraid that Emperor Delay found them in the divine realm. Maybe she had already been to the divine realm in the past, so she has been missing all these years. But now it's all ours. Lin Ling smiled contentedly and gave all the other treasures to Yu Yu and the others, leaving only 3 treasures for himself. Let's go back immediately. I guess Lei Gong's palace is also in a state of emergency. Then, Lin Ling led everyone away. Emperor Delay is already so strong, and it's not only Emperor Delay who wants to harm Lei Gong. It seems that there will be a fierce battle later. On the way, treasure god Nanwu Fengyu sighed. Fortunately, we have plundered some treasures here, at least they can help a lot. Now, I hope Emperor Zhang and the others can withstand the pressure. Lin Ling nodded and then sped up. When they reached the final world, he asked Yu Yu and the others to leave first, and then he and treasure god Nanwu Fengyu went up the divine stairs. Let me go, it hurts so much. Behind Lin Ling, the fat boy was still tied up. At this moment, he shouted angrily. Of course, the pain in his crotch made him cry and snot. Young master, you'd better not shout. Beside him, Green Ancestor immediately said with a wry smile. After witnessing Lin Ling's domineering destruction of the imperial court, he knew that Emperor Delay had provoked someone he couldn't afford to provoke. Lin Ling ignored them and continued to speed up. When he was about to reach Lei Gong's palace, a series of roars came, and the dazzling light illuminated the entire Tianji. Sure enough, the battle has begun. Lin Ling's body flickered as he rushed past the divine stairs and finally arrived at the peak of the clouds. He glanced around and saw that half of the ancient thunder god Great Hall had already been destroyed. A large number of experts were fighting in the surroundings, clashing with each other. Of course, Lin Ling could easily see that one side was weaker and the other was stronger. After all, one side had 2 gods working together, and the only one resisting was Lei Gong's side. Eugene, the Titanic Crescent god's people are here. The Qushan and Lei Gong have a good relationship, so they didn't attack Lei Gong at this moment. Lin Ling instantly figured out what was going on. Although the Qushan didn't come to help, it was enough to prove their loyalty. After all, the 4 gods' goal was to fight against the world will, so anyone related to the world will was an enemy of the 9 continents. Now, Lei Gong was the host of the world will, but the Qushan didn't come to deal with him. Was this not enough of a friend? Lin Ling is back. Suddenly, many of the divine paladins on Lei Gong's side saw Lin Ling and were overjoyed. Lin Ling, you're back. Quick, 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 go help Lord Lei Gong. The leader was a divine general, and at this moment, he shouted excitedly. Lin Ling, one of the 8 new gods. The experts on Yojin's side also looked over. When they saw Lin Ling and Lei Gong who had just rushed out of the divine stairs, they couldn't help but be shocked. It would be a lie if they said they weren't afraid of the 8 new gods. What's there to be afraid of? He's Lei Gong's man. Maybe he has already joined the spirit nation. In my opinion, we should kill him as well. At this moment, a loud shout suddenly sounded. The one who spoke was the 7th prince. At this moment, he looked at Lin Ling angrily and sneered, Lin Ling, let me give you a piece of advice. You can only wait to be captured. Once it's clear that you have nothing to do with the world will, Eugene and the rest will clear your name. Clear your name. In the past, he was also completely afraid of Lin Ling. However, now that Lei Gong was the host of the world will, as long as Lin Ling wasn't a fool, he would definitely cut ties with Lei Gong. The premise was that Lin Ling had to be controlled by Eugene and the rest. The so-called control naturally meant that he would put down his weapons and be obedient. Chapter 43-42. Lin Ling, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? Stop. The 7th prince also shouted anxiously when he sensed the strong wind blowing towards him. He would never have thought that Lin Ling had no intention of compromising at all. Even if he knew that the Thunder God was the host body of the world's will, he would still support the Thunder God. Poof! The 7th prince lowered his head and immediately saw that his chest had been clawed open by a hand. His life force was also constantly dissipating. If you want to touch Lei Gong, you will have to do it over my dead body. Stop! Lin Ling said in a low voice. His words caused the experts from Eugene to tremble. This meant that Lin Ling was now an enemy of the 9 states. While everyone was still in shock, the 7th prince lowered his head in disbelief. He realized that a powerful force was destroying everything in his body. Lin Ling, you have become a god. He raised his head abruptly and his eyes were filled with shock. Die. Unfortunately, Lin Ling did not even look at him. With a shake of his hand, a sea of blood spread out and killed the 7th prince. With his current strength, killing the 7th prince was as easy as flipping his hand. To the crowd, this tyrannical method was undoubtedly bloody and crazy. This was because the 7th prince was a trial taker and had a high status. He was obviously a few levels higher than the paladins of the gods. Killing a trial taker was a blatant act of rebellion against the gods. Kill Lin Ling. The people from the various gods roared in anger. In their eyes, Lin Ling had rebelled. Although Lin Ling's name had spread throughout the 9 states, Lin Ling was now facing the 4 gods. How could he go against the gods? Lin Ling really dares to kill. The eyes of Lei Gong's people narrowed. Although they were also fighting against the people from Eugene, they obviously did not dare to kill them. After all, they still thought that these people were on the same side. There must be a misunderstanding. Lin Ling is now a member of the will of the realm. Kill Lin Ling. At this moment, more and more experts arrived from the distant sky. Their killing intent was surging. Die, all of you. However, Lin Ling did not show any mercy. The tyrannical song sword appeared in his hand. With a slash, a sea of blood spread and drowned the experts in an instant. So powerful. Seeing the people who were gradually drowning in the sea of blood, Lei Gong's people gasped. Although Lin Ling was one of the 8 new gods, his strength was not enough to kill so many experts. Unless Lin Ling's to increase his strength. Where is His Excellency? After temporarily dealing with the group of people, Lin Ling looked at the old man and asked. In the palace. Lin Ling, quickly go and help him. Now that Eugene and the Titanic Crescent God have gone, along with many other challengers, our mission is to prevent more experts from entering the palace and reduce the pressure on His Excellency Lei Gong." The people looked at Lin Ling and said. Hearing this, Lin Ling shook his head. He had a feeling that with this group of people, they would not be able to stop more experts. "Why don't we go in together?" Lin Ling suggested. "Lin Ling, we appreciate your kindness. We know what you are thinking. Although we cannot change fate, we will do our best to do what we should do, even if it means death." The old man said word by word. It was obvious that he was loyal to Lei Gong. His heart was devoted. All right. Lin Ling could not bear to persuade them anymore. Regardless of the outcome, they might die outside the palace, but it was their own choice. If Lin Ling continued to stop them, it would be an insult to them. Capture Lei Gong alive. At this moment, a large number of experts came from the distant horizon. They were all martial gods. No one knew what kind of reward Eugene had given them to make these people fight with their lives on the line. Die, all of you. Looking at the greedy cockroaches, Lin Ling's heart was filled with murderous intent. He slashed out with his sword. Splash! The sea of blood spread out once again. With a single slash, tens of thousands of experts were killed. It was ruthless and cold. Tyrannical singing sword steps of slaughter is gradually reaching perfection. Once it reaches perfection, it will not be used for a short period of time. After killing those experts, Lin Ling thought to himself. He had already activated the tyrannical singing sword. However, the steps of slaughter of the scabbard had a time limit. Once he killed a certain number of people, the scabbard would enter a dormant state. Just like in Spirit Nation Island, Lin Ling had killed a large number of martial gods at once. In the end, the tyrannical singing sword could not be used. Lin Ling, go ahead. I will help them. I will look for you later. At this moment, Nan Wufenyu spoke. He obviously knew that Lin Ling wanted to help these people who were not afraid of death. However, with so many people coming from all directions, Lin Ling was not at ease. Thank you, Grandpa Treasure God. Hearing this, Lin Ling immediately nodded and pounced toward the palace's gate. Die! However, just as he reached the gate, a powerful attack shot out from the gate. It turned into a flaming rope and completely tied Lin Ling up. Now that the palace was full of enemies, if he was not careful, he could easily die. Lin Ling. Seeing this, the experts outside the gate anxiously shouted. Only treasure god Nan Wufenyu had a cold smile on his face. He was not worried at all. Immediately, several figures walked out of the gate. They were all trial takers. One of them was Wangu Yanhui. When he saw Lin Ling tied up by the flaming rope, he immediately laughed excitedly. He had wanted Lin Ling to die for a long time, but he did not dare to touch Lin Ling because of Lei Gong's power. It was also a good opportunity. Another one. However, his laughter did not last long because Lin Ling, who was tied up in front of him, shook his body. The flaming rope was shattered into pieces, causing Wangu Yanhui and the others to open their mouths in disbelief. Because this flaming rope was a grade 9 divine artifact, bestowed to them by the gods. As long as one was a martial god realm expert, once trapped, they would not be able to break free for half an hour. This rope was called the World God Rope, and it was obtained from the divine world. Lin Ling only needed to be tied up for half an hour. It was enough for them to kill Lin Ling. Unless Lin Ling was no longer a martial god realm expert. While they were still in shock, a sword slashed down, sharp and clean, and overflowing with killing intent. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Several heads flew into the air, sucked into the roiling sea of blood. Wangu Yanhui was among them. He naturally died with his eyes wide open. If he knew that Lin Ling had such strength, he would have avoided Lin Ling immediately. After all, although he could kill Lin Ling now, Lin Ling could also kill him. Several more trial takers died in Lin Ling's hands. Chapter 43-43. After all, Sir Lei Gong was also the first person to help Lin Ling after Lin Ling had arrived in the final world. Die. After entering the hall, Lin Ling quickly rushed forward along the corridor. Everyone he encountered along the way was slain by his sword. Indeed, no one could stop him. However, Lei Gong had clearly entered the secret realm in the palace. Thus, Lin Ling did not see Lei Gong for a while. Instead, when he arrived at a large hall, he saw two groups of people facing each other. These powerhouses were actually one of the 12 martial gods of Jojo. Lin Ling. After seeing Lin Ling enter, someone let out a cry of surprise, and this person was the unrestrained sword martial god. Beside him were Emperor Miao and a Yuan venerate martial god. On the other side, in addition to the remaining 12 martial gods, there were two other people standing there. One of them was Wang Shui. This person was an expert that Lin Ling had defeated in Spirit Light City. He was very powerful and had also been a powerhouse of the Snow Wind Academy. He had cultivated the 8-9 demonic art and had an extremely strong physical body. Of course, although Lin Ling had defeated him back then, it was obvious that this person had suppressed his cultivation base to be exactly the same as Lin Ling's. That was why he had lost. If he had used his full strength, Lin Ling would have definitely been defeated. The other person was also an old acquaintance of Lin Ling. It was the city lord of East City. Everyone looked at Lin Ling. The Yuan venerate martial god was stroking his injured chest emotionally. Clearly, he had also been injured in the previous clash. Lin Ling. As for the martial god powerhouses on the other side, they were also staring at Lin Ling gravely. They had all witnessed the Battle of the Yellow Sea and knew how powerful Lin Ling was. It could be said that in the current Jojo Void, Lin Ling was a true authority. No one dared to underestimate him. One of Lei Gong's valiant generals, Lin Ling, whose strength is only below that of the young Qilin, has also come. A voice transmission token appeared in the hand of the city lord of East City. He spoke to the voice transmission token quietly. His voice seemed to spread throughout the entire Lei Gong Great Hall. Whether it was those who were fighting or those who were advancing, everyone stopped attacking at this moment. Some people frowned, while others licked their lips in excitement. Obviously, they were not surprised by Lin Ling's appearance, and many of them were looking forward to seeing him. It was Lin Ling's turn. After the city lord of East City spread the news of Lin Ling's appearance, he looked at Lin Ling with a complicated expression. Lin Ling, I knew that you would come eventually. Are you going to stop me? Lin Ling also spoke indifferently. He had no enmity with the city lord of East City. It was just that their standpoints were different, so they were enemies. Both he and the city lord of East City were principled people. They would fight for the lord above them. Therefore, his confrontation with the city lord of East City was also an ironclad matter. Lin Ling, Lei Gong has already fallen. He is the host body of the world's will and is a great enemy of the entire Jojo Void. Do you want to die with Lei Gong? Let me give you a piece of advice. If you wait to be captured without a fight, we will not treat you as part of Lei Gong's camp. At this moment, an old man also laughed sinisterly. He was one of the 12 martial gods. Hearing this, Lin Ling smiled sarcastically. Lei Gong was the host body of the world's will. There was nothing wrong with that. However, weren't the city lord of East City and the rest not? They were from the Spirit Nation. Moreover, the entire incident was probably caused by the Spirit Nation adding fuel to the fire. Did these people really think he was an idiot? Go to the underworld and talk nonsense again. Lin Ling slashed out with his sword, cold and merciless. Lin Ling, do you want to walk this path to the end? You've missed your last chance. Seeing Lin Ling attack, the martial god expert's expression changed and he issued a final ultimatum. However, just as he finished speaking, he was drowned by the sea of blood and died completely. So powerful. Such an unexpected turn of events had undoubtedly shocked the remaining martial gods. Because they knew that Lin Ling was very strong, but they hadn't expected him to be able to kill a martial god with a single swing of his sword. After all, that was one of the 12 strongest martial gods in the 9 continents. You martial god kings will all die in a while. While they were shocked, Lin Ling looked at them coldly and said contemptuously, "Now, I've killed the Duan lineage martial god and the eternal martial god. If there are a few more of you, then from now on, there will be no more 12 martial gods in the Jojo void." What? Hearing this, those people's faces turned pale with a swoosh. Obviously, they did not expect Lin Ling to be so strong. However, the city master of Yi City and Wang Shue's expressions did not change. They naturally knew what had happened to Lin Ling on the island of Ling Kingdom, and they knew very well how strong Lin Ling was. "Lin Ling, let's continue the battle from that day. How about it?" At this moment, Wang Shui walked out and unleashed his full strength. Demonic energy surged out and caused the ground to sink because his powerful physical strength was erupting. This was the power of 500,000 worlds. However, compared to the last time, he did not suppress his strength this time, so his strength was at the early stage of the lower god realm. "Wang Shui, I know that your goal is not to kill me, but to stop me from helping Lei Gong, right?" Lin Ling's eyes were cold as he looked at Wang Shui indifferently and said, "That's right. Lei Gong has fallen. This is the law of the Great Tao, and no one can change it." Wang Shui nodded. "Lei Gong is also a world will host. If the Ling Kingdom wants him to fall, isn't this going against the principles of the great god of the Ling Kingdom?" Lin Ling pondered for a moment and said again. He knew very well that the 10 world will hosts would not be opponents because they were in the same camp. Therefore, Lin Ling could not understand why the great god of the Ling Kingdom wanted to frame Lei Gong. The thoughts of the great god of the Ling Kingdom are not something I can understand. My goal is to stop you. Wang Shui shook his head and said firmly. Lei Gong is my benefactor. Whether he is a world will host or not, I will definitely help him. Even if he is a devil who has killed trillions of people, I will still help him. If you want to stop me, then the only outcome is death. Lin Ling's voice turned cold as his talents began to fuse. The first stage physique appeared, causing the palace to tremble. We walk different paths. If I can die in the hands of you, Lin Ling, I will have no regrets. After all, you are also from the Wind Snow Academy. From another perspective, you are also one of us. Wang Shui nodded. The demonic technique on his body was even more majestic and domineering, making him look like a giant. If I can die in your hands, I will also have no regrets. Lin Ling nodded and punched out. Rumble. The void exploded as cracks spread out like a mirror. The powerful energy gushed out and caused the surrounding martial gods to fall to the ground. Their faces changed greatly. Chapter 43-44. Wang Shui is the #1 physical body expert in the 9 states. Lin Ling chose to meet him head-on. He might lose. Although the other martial gods were shocked by Lin Ling's momentum, they still had confidence in Wang Shui. Boom! Almost at the same time, Wang Shui also made a move. He threw out a punch that could destroy everything in its path. Not only did it have the strength of the physical body, but it also had the power of spirit essence and powerful divine power. Puff! 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 The 2 fists collided in midair. Then, a gust of wind with the fists as the center gushed out in all directions. Around the fists, a void appeared. One could even vaguely see the fierce battle in the void. It was the collision of tens of thousands of experts, and that void was obviously where Lei Gong was. This meant that when Lin Ling and Wang Shue's fists collided, they had inadvertently hit the void where Lei Gong was. Of course, this void disappeared as quickly as it came, so Lin Ling only caught a glimpse of it. Then, his eyes also looked at Wang Shui in front of him. Wang Shui's long hair was fluttering, his eyes were calm, and his sickly face was rosy at this moment. Lin Ling, compared to last time, now, you can finally defeat me under my full strength. Suddenly, Wang Shui opened his mouth, but he also coughed up a lot of blood. Senior, if you have any unfulfilled wishes, I, Lin Ling, will fulfill them for you. Lin Ling was still expressionless because he knew that Wang Shui had been completely killed by him. Say sorry to the Dean of the Snow Wind Academy for me. I have disappointed them. Wang Shui suddenly smiled, but he also coughed up more blood. Then, his body completely decayed like ashes and disappeared from the hall. The enemy who defeated you back then, I will also defeat him for you in the name of the Snow Wind Academy. Before Wang Shui dissipated, Lin Ling also heard a name from Wang Shui, so Lin Ling also said lightly. At that time, Wang Shui was the strongest genius in the history of the Snow Wind Academy. He represented the pride and glory of the Snow Wind Academy, but in the end, he was defeated by someone and disappeared without a trace. Not being able to defeat the other party in the name of Snow Wind Academy was also a knot in Wang Shui's heart that had yet to be resolved. Lin Ling, it's my turn now. The moment Wang Shui died, the city lord of Yi City spoke indifferently. He was clearly not surprised by this scene and had even sensed it a long time ago. The great god of the spirit kingdom has the power to revive people. I want to know if Wang Shui is dead. Lin Ling looked at the city lord of Yi City and said. Back then, when he first came into contact with the spirit nation, someone said that after the people of the spirit nation died, they could be resurrected. Therefore, Lin Ling wanted to be sure. Maybe, maybe not. This is no longer important. The city lord of Yi City smiled and did not give an answer. Lin Ling nodded and did not continue to ask. Instead, he said, do you think you are my opponent? I don't think I'm your match. The city lord of Yi City pondered for a moment and then spoke the truth. Because on the island of the spirit nation, Lin Ling had defeated the 4 great gods of the island, including Meng Pe and the bloodline of the 12 ancestral sorcerers. Therefore, he knew very well that the current Lin Ling was no longer the Lin Ling of the past. Of course, he was actually surprised by this news for a long time, especially when he thought of the junior he had met in East City and the indomitable expert in front of him. This made him feel as if he was dreaming. What? Hearing the words of the city lord of East City, the rest of the martial god kings were all suffocated. Previously, when Lin Ling defeated Wang Shui, they were already very surprised. However, when they saw the city lord of Yi City come to fight Lin Ling, a glimmer of hope rose in their hearts. However, the city lord of Yi City now said that he was also not Lin Ling's match. What level had this Lin Ling reached now? Alright, if you can take my sword, I'll consider it your win. At this moment, Lin Ling slowly pulled out the tyrannical song sword. On the huge sword, there was a sea of blood flowing, and the murderous aura was incomparably dense. Let me try. The city lord of Yi City nodded and did not dare to neglect Lin Ling. He also activated all of his divine origin. Above his head, an ancient 8 trigrams appeared. Xian trigram, Kuan trigram, Shen trigram, Zhen trigram, Li trigram, Qin trigram, Dui trigram, Sun trigram. The ancient voice constantly drifted out. At this moment, in the final world, Yi City was in turmoil. The 8 trigrams mirror that had been floating in the sky above Yi City shot toward Lei Gong's main hall like a meteor. Heaven moves vigorously, and a gentleman strives constantly to improve himself. Earth moves vigorously, and a gentleman carries things with great virtue. An 8th grade divine fetus descended. The power of the divine fetus had actually reached the number of 5,000. 5,000 was an incomparably huge amount of divine fetus. It was also the full strength of the city lord of E-City. This is the divine fetus. The surrounding martial god kings also sensed that the entire main hall was protected by an ancient 8 trigrams intent. It felt as if it was immovable like a mountain. Try your steps of God. However, even if he activated all of his strength, the city lord of E-City still did not dare to underestimate Lin Ling's sword. This was because he knew that Lin Ling's sword had killed millions of martial gods. Very strong. Lin Ling stared indifferently at the city lord of E-City, nodded, and activated the final sword. Although his steps of death was powerful, there was a time limit. It was fine if he did not use the sword. Once he used the sword, he had to kill people. After killing a certain number of people, the steps of death would disappear and he would not be able to use it for a short period of time. At this moment, Lin Ling sensed that the scabbard had finally reached its limit. Xiao mo sha, soa pahi. An ancient voice drifted out. Then, behind Lin Ling, an old man quietly appeared. His long hair was like a raging fire, and his killing intent was like an ocean. He gently slashed out. An incomparably dazzling sword appeared, and its speed was also incomparably fast. Even with the city lord of E-City's strength, he could only roughly see the shadow of the sword. Looking at the martial god kings, they were even more miserable. They could only see a ray of blood light. Rumble. When this sword slashed towards the city lord of E-City, the 8 trigrams above his head shook violently. A ray of blood light appeared on the surface of the 8 trigrams mirror. Moreover, the blood light kept cracking, and the cracks kept spreading. In the end, the originally clear mirror quietly turned into the color of a sea of blood. Pucci. The city lord of E-City was originally standing on the ground, but he staggered back and finally sat down on the ground. His eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. He did not block this sword. Yi Jian's killing intent was too strong. It shocked the world and made ghosts and gods weep. Was this the power of the steps of God? Why didn't you kill me? Suddenly, the city lord of E-City raised his head and frowned at Lin Ling, because of your daughter. Lin Ling looked indifferently at the city lord of E-City and said. His words caused the city lord of E-City's body to tremble. Lin Ling continued, I don't know why you're fighting for the spirit nation, but to me, the world will wants to destroy my family, so I'll do my best to stop it. This is why I'm fighting. Chapter 43-45. As for the tyrannical song sword in Lin Ling's hand, the blood-red light on the blade began to recede. However, before it did so, Lin Ling did not even look around and slashed out with his sword. Ah! A painful cry rang out. However, before the cry ended, a martial god expert was cut into 2 halves. Swoosh! Lin Ling did not stop waving his sword and slashed out again. Puff! Another martial king fell. In the end, all the martial gods who were enemies of Lei Gong were killed by Lin Ling. Unrestrained sword martial god, let's go. When they arrived at the entrance of a corridor in the main hall, Lin Ling's voice also floated over. Okay. The unrestrained sword martial god and the others subconsciously replied as if they had heard the order of a god. In fact, Lin Ling's sword was too terrifying and made them understand a truth. There was always someone better than you. Lin Ling, your sword, whose sword is it? However, just as Lin Ling was about to disappear, the city lord of E-City hurriedly asked. Sha Mo. A cold and emotionless voice quietly floated over from afar in the corridor, causing the city lord of E-City to tremble. He kept recalling, Sha Mo, Sha Mo. In the end, he laughed bitterly and shook his head helplessly. Sha Mo. He had heard from Lord Ning that although he was only a god in the Age of Gods, he was extremely famous in the Age of Gods and had to mobilize all the gods and Buddhas to punish him. He did not expect that Lin Ling had actually obtained his sword. Xian knew, this time, father is alive because of you." Then, the city lord of East City looked into the distance as if he could see the woman in East City who had been waiting for him to return home. His daughter was called Yi Xian Nu. She liked Lin Ling but was rejected by Lin Ling with an excuse. However, Yi Xian Nu did not give up and had been waiting in East City for Lin Ling to pick her up. "Lin Ling, have you become a god?" As Lin Ling and the others quickly floated along the corridor, Miao Di asked curiously. Lin Ling nodded. His eyes were still looking forward. By now, he knew that Lei Gong's main hall was filled with experts. It would not be easy to reach Lei Gong's side. "By the way, have you seen a monster that looks like a yiksha?" Then, Lin Ling looked at Miao Di and said. Miao Di, Carefree Sword Martial God and the others were still shocked by Lin Ling's strength. After hearing Lin Ling's words, they immediately felt an irresistible feeling and hurriedly replied, "Right now, the Lei Gong Great Hall is filled with experts. We have never seen that yiksha-like monster you mentioned." Hearing this, Lin Ling frowned. The yiksha-like monster he mentioned was naturally the giant ghost. Lin Ling wanted to know where the giant ghost, Emperor God Zhang Gang and the others went. He wanted to know if they had reached Lei Gong's side. There was also Shingyi. What about him? But now, it seemed that Lei Gong's main hall was filled with battles. Only by going to Lei Gong's side could he know everything. Die. As he was thinking, a large number of experts appeared in front of him. They were not from Lei Gong's main hall, so Lin Ling rushed forward and punched out. "Lin Ling, it's Lin Ling." Those people were all wearing heavy armor. They were from Titanic Crescent God, so they recognized Lin Ling. However, just as they recognized him, they were immediately killed by Lin Ling's punch. The current Lin Ling could kill martial gods as easily as chopping vegetables. Lin Ling. Just as he rushed out of the corridor, there was another main hall in front of him. There were many people from Lei Gong standing there. However, they were now like stone statues, unable to move. There was also a black cauldron in the main hall. Black Crow Old Man. Lin Ling swept his gaze and immediately recognized the black cauldron. During the Battle of the Yellow Sea, Lin Ling fought with this Black Crow Old Man. This person was a divine fetus who borrowed the body of another to revive. He was a god from the god realm. However, Lin Ling never expected that this Black Crow Old Man would appear in Lei Gong's main hall. He must be thinking of fishing in troubled waters. Without any hesitation, Lin Ling floated towards the black cauldron. Then, he kicked out fiercely and directly shattered the black cauldron. "Lin Ling, it's you again." After the black cauldron exploded, an illusory figure appeared. It was like a ghost and fog. At this moment it was staring at Lin Ling with a face full of anger. "Die." Lin Ling activated his divine energy and flooded it, completely refining the ghost fog. "Lin Ling, I won't let you off." Black Crow Old Man's voice seemed to come from another void. It was mixed with malevolence and resentment. Because it was Lin Ling again. Lin Ling again. He, Black Crow Old Man, had powerful means, but it was ineffective against Lin Ling. Because Lin Ling's soul force was too strong. It was completely uncontrollable. "Get lost." Lin Ling frowned slightly. He immediately knew that Black Crow Old Man had escaped. In reality, this divine fetus from the god realm was not in Lei Gong's main hall at all. However, after destroying Black Crow Old Man's black cauldron, Lin Ling was confident that he had also greatly damaged Black Crow Old Man's vitality. Lin Ling. After the black cauldron was broken, those people who were like stone sculptures recovered their strength. It turned out that they were all controlled by the black cauldron and nearly lost their lives. "Do you know where Lord Lei Gong is?" Lin Ling could not be bothered to say too much and asked directly. "I know. Over here." An old man also knew that there was no time to lose, so he immediately led the way. Everyone followed Lin Ling and rushed towards Lord Lei Gong's side. Along the way, Lin Ling saved many more people, causing more and more experts to follow behind him. The current him was like the new master of Lei Gong's main hall. He made all of Lei Gong's people believe in him. Lei Gong's main hall was grand and vast. Currently, there were battles everywhere. Moreover, a voice suddenly appeared in everyone's ears. Lin Ling has returned. Lei Gong's trial taker, one of the current generation's 8 new gods. He has already killed the trial takers, the 7th prince, Wangu Yanhui, Wang Shui, and Yi City's city lord, Black Crow Old Man. He's heading towards the Kuan position. Those who received the order, stop him with all your might. It was unknown who shouted the voice, but everyone who heard it focused their eyes. As expected of one of the current generation's 8 new gods, Lin Ling was actually getting closer and closer to Lei Gong. Lin Ling, the second strongest expert after Lei Gong. I'll stop him. This guy is finally here. I've been waiting for a long time. In the direction of the Kuan position, the top experts of the 9 prefectures void began to rush there. They wanted to obliterate Lin Ling there. At the same time, in the void of Lei Gong's main hall, everyone heard the previous sentence, causing many people's eyes to focus. Emperor God Zhang Gang, Lin Ling is here. An evil spirit that looked like a yiksha revealed a vicious smile at this moment. He's really late. If he came a little later, he would have been able to collect our corpses. Not far away, a middle-aged man who was fighting a woman said with a faint smile at this moment. Chapter 43-46. Lin Ling is here. Yes. In all directions of the void, many people's eyes flickered. Among them, there was a woman who was as cold as a queen. Her eyes flashed with killing intent. She was naturally the glazed female empress. There are many who want to stop Lin Ling, but I'm afraid no one can stop him. Lin Ling will come here sooner or later. Yes. Luli Empress thought to herself. She had a feeling that the strongest of Eugene and the Titanic Crescent God would be sent in the direction of the Kuan position. Unfortunately, it would be useless. This was because she had seen Lin Ling fight a million martial gods with her own eyes. Even now, when she thought about it, she was still shocked. I must kill Lei Gong before Lin Ling arrives. Only then will Lei Gong become the true host of the world will. Yes. She then looked at the place where the most intense battle was taking place in the distance. The killing intent in her eyes grew stronger. That was the place where the gods were fighting. Lin Ling, you're back. Yes. In the middle of the most intense battle, an old man's eyes narrowed. A complicated emotion appeared in his eyes. He was Lei Gong. Then, he looked at the people who were dying and felt a sense of guilt. Too many people died for me. Am I really the host of the world will? Yes. The old man muttered to himself. A powerful lightning bolt collided with a giant in the distance. However, he was holding back. The giant opposite him sneered and did not hold back at all. Lin Ling, come quickly. Lord Lei Gong can't stop you. Yes. Not far away from the old man, there was also an intense battle going on there. A child with a cape draped over his shoulders and an awe-inspiring aura spoke faintly. Young Lin, use your full strength. Yes. Not too far away from him, endless streams of water shot up into the sky. The sound of splashing water echoed through the void. A woman in a flowing dress floated in the air. She had beautiful blue hair, and her blue hair fluttered in the wind like water. Endless divine power emanated from her body. Young Lin, there are 3 people who are trying to stop Lin Ling. They are the Crown Prince, Qing Mo, and San Ling. These 3 are the 8 gods. Although the Crown Prince lost to Lin Ling, if the 3 of them work together, Lin Ling won't be able to come here. Yes. A clear and cold voice drifted out from the woman's mouth. It was like a falling flower, but the flowing water was heartless. Luo God forbidden. Yes. Soon after, she released a low shout. Her originally gentle aura suddenly changed, becoming like a violent storm, and also like a torrential river. Of course, her aura. Of course. Luotian, at the moment, we are not in a weak position. The child squinted his eyes. He sensed the woman's powerful aura and shouted, Qilin transformation. He had the appearance of a child, but he suddenly grew up and turned into a man with a meter-long hair. His body was covered in green scales, and his eyes were green. He had a strong sense of killing intent. Although you are resisting stubbornly, there are only a few people in Lei Gong's palace who are worthy of being feared. One of them is you, the other is Lin Ling, and the other two are mid-stage low-god great generals. Seeing the child transform, the woman's eyes flashed slightly. She had long heard of the #1 trial taker under the Thunder God clan, young Qilin. He was the #1 among the 8 new deities and the #1 expert under the Thunder God clan. Now that she had seen him, she knew that young Qilin was indeed worthy of his reputation. Young Lin was also a mid-stage low god, but there was an indescribable energy around him. It seemed to be the legendary steps of the gods. Let me meet you, the #1 among the 8 gods. The woman called Luotian stretched out her hands. Above her palms, balls of water appeared. She frowned slightly and countless balls of water shot forward, illuminating a part of the void. Luotian of the 8 gods has finally made her move. Attracted by the shocking scene, many experts stopped their attacks and looked solemnly into the distance. Rumble. In this part of the void, fierce battles were going on everywhere. The whole void seemed to be collapsing. However, it was clear that Lei Gong's side was losing ground. Everyone in Lei Gong's palace was looking forward to it. Lin Ling, come quickly. After all, he was the second strongest challenger in Lei Gong's palace. At this moment, Lin Ling was dashing along the corridor. But soon, he frowned and stopped abruptly. Lord Lin Ling, what's wrong? The people following behind him were all taken aback, and they stopped as well. You guys go first. Lin Ling stared ahead. There was a great hall there, and it was the great hall where the Thunder God used to discuss matters. As long as he reached this place, he would be able to find a stone door that would lead him to the void where the Thunder God resided. That void was the battlefield where the 8 gods' heavenly palace's quota was contested. Of course, on the way to the palace, Lin Ling also noticed 3 powerful auras. They seemed to have been waiting for a long time. These 3 auras were very strong. Each of them was not weaker than Luli Empress. Obviously, they were the 8 gods of this generation. We go first. Hearing Lin Ling's words, the experts behind Lin Ling were shocked. However, they did not think too much and immediately rushed forward. Just as they were flying along the corridor, 3 figures quietly appeared like reflections in water. The 3 of them leaned against the wall of the corridor. Their bodies emitted a soul-crushing aura that shocked all the experts who were flying past. 3 spirits, Qin Mo, Crown Prince. After seeing the 3 of them clearly, everyone's heart sank. Because they knew that the 3 of them were one of the 8 new gods of this generation, and their strength was as formidable as Lin Ling. Now that the 3 of them had appeared at the same time, Lin Ling was probably in trouble. Go. However, the leading old man could not care less. He suddenly gritted his teeth and planned to rush past the 3 of them. After all, he had heard that Lin Ling had asked them to go first. Therefore, he believed that Lin Ling would not harm them. The experts behind him were somewhat hesitant. They were afraid that the 3 of them would suddenly attack them. However, seeing that someone had taken the lead, they braced themselves and rushed forward. A sense of death quietly spread over them. The 8 gods of this generation had the strength to easily kill them, just like how Lin Ling had easily killed the other gods. However, this sense of death only spread. In the end, it did not attack, allowing those people to smoothly pass through the three of them. Chapter 43-47. At this moment, they realized that after Lin Ling's return, the entire battlefield in the Lei Gong Hall had quietly changed. This was because at least one-third of Yojin's people had to deal with Lin Ling. It was hard to imagine that if one-third of the people went to deal with Lei Gong, the pressure on Lei Gong's side would be even greater. Three spirits, Qing Mo, and the Crown Prince have successfully stopped Lin Ling. Almost at the same time, an old voice resounded throughout the hall, causing the expressions of those who were fighting to change. Even the battle in the void paused for a moment. They finally caught up. Many people let out low voices. They knew that Lin Ling was in trouble. After all, how could Lin Ling resist the joint forces of 3 of the 8 new gods of the current era? When the voice floated out, an oppressive aura spread throughout the silent corridor as if the entire corridor was frozen. If not for the fact that the Lei Gong Hall was a product of the god realm, this powerful aura would have turned the hall into dust. Lin Ling, you defeated the city lord of Yi City. Your strength should be that of a god, right? At this moment, a voice finally floated out. It was the Crown Prince who spoke. Try it and you'll know. Lin Ling stared at the 3 people and replied indifferently. He could sense that the Crown Prince's strength had clearly increased compared to the time of the competition. Moreover, it had increased by more than 30%. The Crown Prince was indeed powerful. After all, it hadn't even been 3 years since the competition. Of course, although the Crown Prince's strength had increased, he still hadn't become a god. However, the other 2 were genuine gods. Whether it was the divine embryo or the divine power, they had all reached unprecedented heights. One of them was a boy wearing Buddhist prayer beads. He looked delicate and had a very amiable smile on his face. However, that smile carried a thick murderous intent. The other person's aura seemed very decadent. His eyes seemed to not care about anything in the world. However, Lin Ling could still sense a sharp aura from him. He was also a very strong opponent. 3 spirits. Noticing Lin Ling's gaze, the boy introduced himself. We've met during the competition. My name is Qing Mo. The other man also spoke calmly. Back then, after the 8 great new gods had finished competing for the slots, they had walked down the corridor together. Therefore, they had already met each other once. Therefore, Lin Ling also had some impression of them. However, compared to before, because this matter was of great importance, the 2 of them didn't conceal their auras now, and they gave off the feeling that they were more than twice as strong as before. Qing Mo. Back then, he was the #1 expert of the 3rd Hall of the Heavenly Sword Academy. He was also the first halberd cultivator in the history of the Heavenly Sword Academy who didn't cultivate the sword. Lin Ling's gaze finally landed on the dispirited man. The latter raised his eyes, seemingly surprised that Lin Ling was so familiar with him, but he still nodded. Do you know Wind Snow Academy's Wang Shui? Lin Ling knew Qing Mo because of Wang Shui. Qing Mo was the master who had defeated Wang Shui. I'm sorry, I don't know this person. However, Qing Mo shook his head. Then, he seemed to have guessed something, since you mentioned Wind Snow Academy, Wang Shui and I must be from the same generation. Since you mentioned him, he should have remembered my name. Unfortunately, I really don't remember him. He's just one of my defeated opponents. He's not worth mentioning. There was a hint of arrogance in Qing Mo's tone. He was one of the few trial testers who had graduated from the academy. This was the same as Lin Ling. Now, he was one of the 8 great new gods. Of course, he had the right to be arrogant. It doesn't matter if you don't remember. I hope that after you lose, you can remember Wind Snow Academy's Wang Shui. And I will defeat you on behalf of Wind Snow Academy. Lin Ling nodded. His eyes quietly revealed his fighting spirit. Thank you for thinking so highly of me. After all, there are very few people in the 9 states who don't know your name, Lin Ling. So, it's my honor to be remembered by you. However, our purpose is to stop you. So, if you want to have a fair fight with me, I'm afraid it will be very difficult. Qin Yimo also nodded and said lightly. To me, the 3 of you are still one person. It's all the same. Lin Ling replied. Arrogant. Lin Ling's words undoubtedly shocked the 3 of them. Then, they shook their heads contemptuously. If Lin Ling fought with them one-on-one, they would be a little afraid. However, if the 3 of them joined forces, they were 100% confident. After all, Lin Ling was not the only 8 great new gods here. Next, do you want to continue chatting or do you want to fight? Let me remind you, now that Eugene and Titanic Crescent God are attacking Lei Gong won't be able to hold on for much longer. At this time, the boy named 3 Spirits said with a faint smile. As you wish. Lin Ling no longer hid his strength. He merged the first stage of his talent and rushed forward. The corridor was narrow and not suitable for an intense battle. However, the 4 of them were the new gods of the 9 states. So, although the corridor was narrow, it was as vast as the void to them. Lin Ling instantly appeared in front of one of them. Then, he struck out with his palm. His first opponent was naturally the Crown Prince. This was because he knew that the Crown Prince was the weakest among the 3. At some point in time, if he wanted to defeat a group of powerful enemies, it was best to start with the weakest. Sensing Lin Ling's attack, the Crown Prince snorted coldly. The realm essence in his body surged and turned into divine power. It flowed out from his limbs and bones, forming a large blood-red cloud. Then, he quietly transformed into an immortal vampire. All of this seemed slow, but in fact, it happened in the blink of an eye. A palm covered in blood-red light fiercely slammed toward Lin Ling. As for Lin Ling, he had already activated his palm, and all of his strength gushed out. After colliding with the Crown Prince's attack, the Crown Prince was directly smashed into the wall, and terrifying cracks spread along the wall. He really is a lower god. And he's so strong. The Crown Prince sensed that his right arm was about to split open. His expression changed drastically. Boom! However, Lin Ling's power didn't stop there. It continued to surge. After a loud boom, the Crown Prince completely exploded, shocking the 2 people on the side. This was because they did not expect Lin Ling to become so strong. He could actually defeat the Crown Prince in one move. One must know that the battle between Lin Ling and the Crown Prince took hundreds of rounds before the victor was decided. The gap is too big. Is this how much Lin Ling has improved in the past few years? Chapter 43-48. Almost at the same time, behind the 3 spirits, the Crown Prince appeared again. As expected of an immortal vampire, he could resurrect after being smashed by Lin Ling. At this moment, the hands of the 3 spirits spread out like scattering flowers. The string of Buddhist beads around their necks shattered, and all of them shot towards Lin Ling. Every Buddhist bead had the word swastika, which was very mysterious. What a strong divine power! Swastika. Lin Ling pulled back his fist, and his expression changed slightly. He sensed that the divine power of the Buddha beads had reached the 5,000th level. He didn't know how much of the 3 spirit strength was in the beads, but if it was less than half, then the 3 spirit strength was beyond imagination. 30,000 great heavenly flames. Swastika. As he kept retreating, Lin Ling's hand rose, and then he kept slapping. Every time he slapped, a large amount of human king's flames shot out, colliding with the Buddha beads like flames. In mid-air, the 2 attacks collided, and an earth-shattering roar erupted. However, the Buddha beads of the 3 spirits were obviously more powerful, but Lin Ling's great heavenly flames were more. 7th grade Divine Fetus. When Lin Ling activated the human king's flames, the three spirits also sensed it, and their eyes became more serious. Lin Ling, didn't you say you wanted to stand up for Wang Shui? Then come and try. Suddenly, a stream of light appeared in the corridor, surrounded by thousands of stars. Then, a trident appeared, piercing through the void and appearing in front of Lin Ling. Break! Lin Ling was still activating the great heavenly flames, but at the same time, he also activated the thunder element of the Luai's real body. It circled behind his arm, and he punched out. Rumble! At the moment of the collision, Lin Ling's figure fell back again, and the air behind him was also knocked out of the void, and it continued to explode as if a small world was exploding. What? Qin Mo was still holding his halberd, but his expression changed because he attacked while Lin Ling was blocking the three spirits. Lin Ling should have been injured, but Lin Ling only retreated. What a powerful physical strength! Lin Ling grabbed the wall with his other hand and cracked it. He stomped his feet on the ground and stopped the momentum. His right fist was covered in lightning and he still punched out, blocking Qin Mo's fatal attack. At least 900,000 world force. What shocked Lin Ling was that Qin Mo's physical strength was actually stronger than Wang Shui's. That's right. In fact, I'm the one with the strongest physical strength in the 9 states. I just remembered that Wang Shui you mentioned earlier. She's a guy who practices the 8-9 mysteries. Qin Mo stopped and looked up at Lin Ling proudly. He said, because I'm the one who practices the 8-9 mysteries. This news shocked Lin Ling. No wonder Qin Mo was so powerful. He had the real 8-9 mysteries. However, Lin Ling could guess that Qin Mo's 8-9 mysteries was not complete. Otherwise, he would be much more powerful. After all, Lin Ling knew that the 8-9 mysteries was based on physical strength. Back then, the great sage, Heaven's Equal, Erlang Shen, had practiced this technique and defeated all the gods and Buddhas. You're the one with the strongest physical strength in the 9 states. Not necessarily. Putting away his thoughts, Lin Ling's eyes turned cold. He suddenly yelled, "Second stage." The flame of the human king spread out like a tide. Real god Luai's even broke the ceiling in the corridor, and King Kong was among them. A domineering King Kong palm slapped out from Lin Ling's body. Rumble. The trident that had collided with Lin Ling was immediately bent like a bow. Then, it completely collapsed. Physical strength. Qin Mo's expression changed drastically. He abandoned the trident and kept retreating. From Lin Ling's palm, he sensed that Lin Ling's strength was not weaker than his. Help me. At the same time, he shouted at the 3 spirits and the others. At this moment, the 3 spirits and the others' faces were slightly pale because they'd thought that Qin Mo would be able to defeat Lin Ling, but who knew that Lin Ling would erupt with his strength and suppress Qin Mo with ease. All appearances are illusory. If you see all appearances, you see Buddha. The 3 spirits' hands kept dancing. The scattered Buddha beads floated back and connected together again. They became bigger and then fell on Lin Ling's head. The Buddha beads now had more than 6,000 god power. Immortal Blood Mountain Boat. Behind the 3 spirits, the Crown Prince also went all out. Blood mist appeared above his head, and then an ancient modeled ship slowly sailed out. There was a flag on the bow of the ship, and it was a skull flag. This was the saint boat that the immortal vampires had used to escape the catastrophe. The Crown Prince used the realm essence to activate it. It was also the totem of the immortal vampires. As for this attack, the power of divinity had reached the level of 5,000. Qin Mo saw that this was an opportunity. He also used all his strength. 8-9 mysteries, heaven-changing fist. He knew very well that if he wanted to kill Lin Ling, he couldn't rely on unorthodox techniques. This would even waste the opportunity created by the three spirits. So, he used the royal way to attack Lin Ling. Rumble. A gigantic fist occupied the entire corridor as it hurtled towards Lin Ling. That physical strength had completely reached the power of 1,000,000 worlds. The three attacks were so terrifying that in the void of the 9 continents, not to mention 3 attacks, even if it was just one attack, there would be very few people who could withstand it. Rumble. Puff. 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 The entire palace was shaking. Whether they were fighting or running, they all stopped fighting and looked in the direction of the Kuan position in shock. Is it the battle on Lin Ling's side? Many people murmured in their hearts. Now, apart from the battle on the void, the most intense battle in Lei Gong's palace should be the battle on Lin Ling's side. They didn't know if the 3 new gods could completely eliminate Lin Ling. At this moment, many people's hearts were in suspense. They were actually a little nervous. Looking at the corridor again, it had been destroyed by the 3 great attacks, leaving Lin Ling with nowhere to run. At the back of the corridor, the 3 spirits were breathing heavily. Sweat the size of soybeans dripped from their foreheads, but their eyes were glued to the front, as if they were afraid that they would miss something. Of course, while they were looking forward to it, they were also a little excited. They believed that Lin Ling would not be able to block it. So, they were also waiting for the old voice to announce that Lin Ling was in the Kuan position and that he had been completely killed by the 3 of them. Chapter 43-49. Boom! The ancient ship exploded, turning into decaying debris. When the Buddha beads smashed down from the sky, the man only needed 1 punch. Boom! The Buddha beads scattered like falling flowers in the void. When the giant fist with the power of 1,000,000 worlds came, the man still only needed 1 punch. Boom! The giant fist stopped, and cracks appeared, shattering like glass. Just like that, the man in the gray robe walked toward the 3 people step by step. The 3 people's eyes trembled, and a voice floated in their minds, "Gray robe, gray robe, gray robe." In their eyes, Lin Ling was no longer Lin Ling. Instead, he was like the Grim Reaper who represented darkness. His power has probably reached the power of 1,000,000 worlds. Godly power, his godly power isn't weak either. I'm afraid it's not weaker than the 6,000 paths. Plus, his godly fetus aura is so terrifying. Qing Mo and the other 2 kept talking, and finally came to the conclusion that Lin Ling had the power to easily kill them. Run! The 3 of them looked at each other, and then burst out with full speed, running toward the back of the corridor. Now, they were completely terrified. Seal! But how could Lin Ling let them escape? If one of them escaped, it would put some pressure on Lei Gong. Powerful soul power shrouded Lin Ling's body. This was the step of wisdom. The crown prince, who was at the back of the 3, sensed a wave of death spreading toward him like a plague. This made his expression change drastically. "Help me, help me." As soon as he shouted, he sensed that the power of the godly fetus had been sealed. The advantage of the immortal vampires had disappeared. "San Ling, save me." This made the crown prince even more panicked. He frantically grabbed the person closest to him. However, the 3 spirits also sensed the terrifying sealing power, because the mala beads on his neck were jumping crazily. Usually, the only explanation for such a situation was that there was a power beyond his control. The power of control had arrived. "Sorry." San Ling waved his right hand, shaking off the crown prince's pull, and then quickly ran forward. With every step he took, the Buddha beads on his neck cracked, and he used the cracks to completely escape Lin Ling's step of wisdom. When he rushed out of the step of wisdom's range, there were only 7 beads left. 1. What power is this? San Ling, who had escaped with his life, felt like he had just survived a disaster. Almost. Boom. As soon as he rushed out, the person beside him. It was Qing Yimo. At the moment, he was drenched in sweat, as if he had just escaped from the step of death. After rushing out of the step of wisdom, his legs went weak, and he almost fell to the ground. He slowly recovered, and only then did he manage to stand up. It's the step of God, and it's of the soul type. Then, Qing Yimo looked at the three spirits and said. Her words made the three spirits tremble. Of course, he had heard of the God stairs, but there were strong and weak God stairs too. Lin Ling was able to seal someone's ability with one move. The God stairs must be very high level. Qing Yimo, San Ling, save me. At this time, the Crown Prince's weak voice came from the corridor behind them. That voice was very flustered and powerless, which made San Ling and San Ling look back. They saw the Crown Prince crawling on the ground in pain, his whole body trembling, and he was already scared out of his wits. Behind the hazy corridor, a grey figure was slowly walking over. Go immediately. With just a glance, San Ling and Qing Yimo immediately ran forward. In a panic, Qing Yimo even fell down. If the people of the four great gods saw this, they would be shocked because even someone as strong as Qing Yimo had such a moment of panic. He came on behalf of Forgotten Snow, using the fame and fortune of the Snow Wind Academy to defeat me. Especially when he thought of what Lin Ling said to him before, Qing Mo's heart was once again shocked. He knew that the Snow Wind Academy had produced a terrifying expert, and he had also pushed the Snow Wind Academy to the highest peak in history. This Lin Ling's strength is probably on par with the young Qilin. How did his strength increase so quickly? San Ling said in a panic. The two of them disappeared into the depths of the corridor one after the other. However, when they disappeared, they heard a painful scream. It came from the Crown Prince. It was obvious that the Crown Prince was in trouble. And this also made them quicken their pace, along the corridor, wanting to quickly reach the void of the battle and tell everyone that Lin Ling was no longer as strong as before. Lin Ling, spare me, spare me. At this moment in the corridor, the Crown Prince kept vomiting blood, and he kept crawling back. Bang! But just as he finished speaking, Lin Ling kicked him, sending him flying, and his sternum continued to crack. Lin Ling was dressed in a grey robe, but his eyes were looking at the corridor in the distance, and he walked forward step by step. Previously, he also wanted to leave Qing Yimo and the others here, but these two were too strong, and Lin Ling didn't want to waste time chasing after them, so he just let them go. He let them escape. Lin Ling, I'm just following orders, spare me. And the Crown Prince looked at the grey figure that kept coming, and the panic in his eyes grew stronger. Making an enemy of Lei Gong is making an enemy of me. Lin Ling came in front of the Crown Prince, raised his foot high, and then stomped down heavily. Boom! The foot with terrifying power landed on the Crown Prince, and he was directly crushed into powder. The Crown Prince had the body of an immortal vampire, but it was sealed by the steps of wisdom, which meant that he couldn't be resurrected, and he was completely dead. Seeing this, Lin Ling didn't stay, and withdrew the third stage of the fusion talent, and then rushed down the corridor. At this moment, in the void of the battle, there was chaos everywhere, and it caused the void to continue to crack, and then it kept on fusing. Die! Looking at Lei Gong again, the number of people was decreasing, and they were constantly being killed by the strong. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before the people in Lei Gong's hall were all wiped out. And at this moment, two panicked figures rushed into the void. They were San Ling and Qing Yimo, but after coming to this void, they finally let out a sigh of relief, because it would be difficult for Lin Ling to kill them here. Their eyes looked around, and they wanted to find Eugene and the others who were fighting in the distance, and they wanted to tell Eugene that Lin Ling wasn't as weak as they thought. But at this moment, an old voice suddenly sounded in the entire void, and even in the entire Lei Gong's hall. Trial taker Lin Ling killed the Crown Prince, defeated San Ling and Qing Yimo, and is now heading to the void. Chapter 4350. How is this possible? Apart from a limited number of people, everyone felt that this news was too unbelievable. After all, Lin Ling was also one of the 8 new gods. He could even be considered a rising star. It was already very impressive that he could not be defeated by the other new gods. But now, he fought against 3 new gods and even defeated them. Who could have guessed the result? Pa! However, at this moment, a figure slowly appeared at the entrance of the void. He was wearing a blue robe and carried a big sword on his back. His long hair was tied behind his head and his eyes were coldly looking at the entire void. The moment he appeared, it was as if the strongest god had arrived, causing an invisible shockwave to erupt from this battle of gods. And he was Lin Ling. The current Lin Ling could be said to be known by everyone in the world. Lin Ling really defeated the 3 spirits. Everyone looked at the figure that suddenly appeared and subconsciously swallowed their saliva. They did not know why, but they all had a feeling that after Lin Ling arrived in this void, this battle of gods would be completely over. Lin Ling. Behind Lin Ling, a large number of people also rushed in. They were all Lei Gong, who had followed Lin Ling before. However, after the last person entered, the entire void became inexplicably silent. This was because this person was treasure god Nanwu Fengyu. As a result, the balance that was originally one-sided was slowly being tipped in the right direction. Lin Ling. In the distant void, an old man's entire body was emitting lightning. He looked at the man in the blue robe in disbelief. His eyes quietly became moist. And he was Lei Gong. After knowing that he was the host of the world will, everyone in the Jojo void wanted to control him and treated him as a great enemy of the world. This feeling, to him, was like a knife piercing his heart. Because no matter what, he could not accept that he was the person who had caused the death of his own disciples and sect. Those family and friends had all died in the twilight of the gods, so he hated the world will. But now, he was actually one of the world wills. But now, in order to protect him, no one in the entire Lei Gong Grand Hall betrayed the enemy. They fought against the outsiders with all their might, resulting in countless casualties. Lin Ling is here. As the old man sighed, the other 2 gods were also looking at Lin Ling. They were Yushan and Titanic Crescent God, and their expressions were cold. If Lin Ling were an ordinary person, it wouldn't be a big deal. But after the previous battle, they knew that he was one of the 4 gods. Only the first row of experts below him. Such strength was almost comparable to a beautiful young Qilin, and it undoubtedly gave them enormous pressure. Moreover, that old man is also very strong. Eugene also stared at treasure god Nanwu Fengyu behind Lin Ling, and his expression became even uglier. This was because Lin Ling could not be underestimated, but Lin Ling had brought many experts with him. Especially that old man, he gave them the feeling that he was not much weaker than them. We don't have many chances left. No matter what, Lei Gong must be under our control. If we can't, then we'll just kill him. Titanic Crescent God said in a low voice, his voice filled with thick killing intent. During the great war of the gods in the past, his family and friends had all died in the calamity, causing him to live for millions of years. Therefore, he hated the will of the world and was absolutely irreconcilable. This was also the reason why he became one of the 4 great gods. He wanted to use the rest of his life to stop the will of the world. Although he respected Lei Gong, the great Tao was merciless. Lei Gong was the host of the world will, which meant that he was the enemy of the 9 continents, and even the entire god realm. If he did not kill Lei Gong, he would be letting down those who had died. Lin Ling and the others will need some time to get here. That time is enough for us to kill Lei Gong. Titanic Crescent God said coldly. His entire body emitted a terrifying power. It turned out that he was the one who had the strongest physical body in the 9 continents. His strength had long reached a level where even the great Tao could not destroy him. Lei Gong, are you still going to be stubborn? As long as you are under our control and sealed, you won't have to die. You won't have to drag others down with you. If you continue to walk the path of darkness, then don't blame us for being merciless. Eugene looked at Lei Gong and said coldly. Currently, the hosts of the world will, except for the great god of spiritual kingdom, were all under the control of the 9 continents. Therefore, Lei Gong was no exception. If I become a prisoner, I would rather die. However, Lei Gong looked up at Eugene and said. He was one of the 4 gods and the master of Lei Gong's hall. How could he become a prisoner? This was different from his pride and his principles. Then don't blame us. Everyone, attack. Yushin no longer hesitated. She unleashed even more power and attacked the Thunder Lord with all her might. Boom! On the other side, Titanic Crescent God's body exploded and turned into a huge black palm that attacked Lei Gong. Kill! Seeing this scene in the distance, Lin Ling roared angrily. To him, it did not matter if Lei Gong was the world will or anyone else. As long as he was Lei Gong, Lin Ling would protect him. This was because Lin Ling owed Lei Gong a favor. Moreover, at some point in time, Lei Gong was like a big brother to Lin Ling, an elder, and even a master. Lin Ling, if you continue to help Lei Gong, you will die too. Apparently, all the experts of Eugene and Eugene had gathered in the void. Therefore, some experts immediately rushed towards Lin Ling. The fastest one was an old man. He was a god and he stood on a black lotus. His aura was monstrous. Die. However, Lin Ling did not stop. At the same time, he used the second stage of the innate talent fusion and slammed his palm forward. Boom! Before the old man could reach him, he was blasted apart by Lin Ling's punch. The black lotus he was sitting on also shattered. This caused the people of Eugene to narrow their eyes. Although Lin Ling defeated the 3 gods, they did not witness it with their own eyes. Now, they finally saw how terrifying Lin Ling was. Stop him with all your might. However, their eyes soon turned red. No matter how strong Lin Ling was, they had to kill Lei Gong because they knew that in the future, Lei Gong would slaughter this world. More and more experts flew toward Lin Ling. There were sky-raising divine sabers, tens of thousands of swords, ancient ships, and palaces. All kinds of powerful attacks were launched at Lin Ling like 100 schools of thought. Lin Ling, give me your life. Looking carefully, the true disciples of Miao Shen had also arrived. One of them was revered Snow. Last time, Lin Ling had robbed him of the flying Snow Sky Palace. Therefore, he hated Lin Ling to the bone. Lin Ling, we cannot fight him. Nanwu Fenyu immediately said. He knew that these people were cannon fodder. Their purpose was to stop Lin Ling from reaching Lei Gong. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.